Okay, Michael. All right. Okay, I got more podcasts in me. E3 hasn't managed to murder me just yet, nor has the dramatic lack of anything out, right? There's like zero things in this world because E3 took all the news. So we're going to have a really in-depth conversation this week about some industry bullshit and a bunch of trailers that we didn't get to talk about.
Yay.
Yep. And that is here on the Rage Select podcast. You're on Rage Select, and I'm Jeff.
And I'm Mike. And E4 or whatever.
Yeah. What did you think about E3 this year?
I was kind of let down by E3.
Yeah?
Because it wasn't really all that exciting. Like I was expecting more from more announcements of stuff that I was hoping for.
Okay.
But they just didn't appear.
Okay. Like what? What were you... I was actually just talking to John about how I kind of forgotten all the kerfuffle, but Ed Boon did a little bit of a Mortal Kombat tease.
Yeah, he's been poking people with Mortal Kombat shit.
Yeah, and it's what's his name did a DMC 5 tease, but then we saw DMC 5.
Yeah, we actually saw DMC 5, which was one of the more exciting things for me, at least, because I'm a big Devil May Cry fan.
Right.
I actually like Nero.
Yeah, well...
But we've had this conversation.
You and I will agree to disagree on that one.
Johnny Young Bosch says it's his favorite thing he's ever voiced.
That's cool for him. I'm glad. Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, there was the Mortal Kombat thing. He was just constantly poking us with it. And he's like, hey... Mortal Kombat guys, and so everyone was expecting some sort of Mortal Kombat announcement,
right?
And nothing popped up with that, What
about what else? What else? See, you know what? I feel like I got everything that I wanted out of E3 because what I wanted to see is more Death Stranding, whatever Miyazaki's making. A new Hitman game, all my favorite creators and franchises got information, and then we got to see Cyberpunk 2077. I'm just like, those are the biggest things on my radar right now, and I got to see all of them. So
I was hoping for a little more Final Fantasy VII stuff.
Oh,
which didn't appear. I'm glad that what we did, we got the Resident Evil 2 stuff,
right. Actually, can I go back to Final Fantasy VII? I think it's funny because I feel like there's nothing that Square could do to make people happy at this point. If they showed Final Fantasy VII at the expense of Kingdom Hearts, people would be like, "No, but Kingdom Hearts!" And they showed. I mean, this year we saw a lot of Kingdom Hearts.
4 trailers for Kingdom Hearts on every single fucking thing except for Nintendo.
This is the year of Kingdom Hearts. That's how Square does it, man. They pick one thing every year and go balls deep. So
it would have been just nice to see something, I guess, on it, kind of thing. I was also really just hoping for Superman, but that's just me. I'm a big Superman nerd, and I just want him to be cool again on games.
Yeah, it was funny when Sony's press conference was going on, where people are like, "What about that Superman game? This is our last chance." And it's just like, guys, I don't think
it's not happening.
I don't think that's going to be here. Actually, you know what? That would make a certain amount of sense because I feel like Sony was big on they have a relationship with Rocksteady with the Batman VR thing,
and
right?
They have a lot of exclusive Batman costumes for the PlayStation.
Yeah. But yeah, I like to see that as well. Although part of me even starts to wonder, I had plenty to be excited about. So maybe in a month, show me that Superman game when I'm done. I'm already got a lot of stuff to geek out over. There's a lot to process coming out of this E3. But I can understand that. I don't feel like there was any.
There was nothing that made me go, "Oh my god, this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen."
Right.
But that's not necessarily me. I'm not shitting on E3 necessarily. It's just that. Every E3 for a while, since at least the Final Fantasy VII first popped up, has been something that has popped up that made me go, "Ooh, I really want to know more about that."
Right.
And with Cyberpunk, was it 2077?
2077, yeah.
I was just like, well, that's kind of neat, but I don't know if I'm excited or not, kind of thing. Well, you know what I mean? I wasn't jumping for joy. I'm like, oh my god, it's Cyberpunk 2077. It looks amazing. It's well, it looks like it can go either way, and because it's a new IP, and sometimes with new IPs they can go either way.
Actually, isn't it an existing IP?
As far as I know, it's a new IP. They've been going batshit insane about the fact that it's a new IP. We're going to make a giant franchise the way with The Witcher. That kind of thing. That's what they've said. I don't know if they mentioned if it was based on something.
See, I just I feel like you don't ever get good games set in that whole kind of Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell.
It's hard to do.
William Gibson Cyberpunk thing, and I feel like it's such a fertile ground for games. But futuristic games tend to be very futuristic, and I really like the kind of look of the kind of boots on the ground, kind of gritty, almost 80s futurism that they've got going on in there. Big popped up collars and Ready Player One cars that make Ready Player One look like garbage.
Yeah,
like garbage.
Yeah, every game that's in the future is either like this is the future,
right?
Or and it's like, well, I kind of want the midpoint, and that's what Cyberpunk 2077 looks like. It looks like the midpoint, between like the super hardcore like Back to the Future 2015 future and the Blade Runner future.
Right. No, I gotcha. Well, I tell you what. I'll tell you what's not set in the future. We have one thing to attend to before we jump back into all the rest of the news, and that is that we got a trailer this week for Creed 2, which is interesting.
Creed Harder, I guess. That's what it's called, right?
Creed Harder. Yes. I wonder if he'll team up with the guy from Creed. It's Apollo. It's Creed and Creed.
And Creed from The Office.
2 Creeds, 3 Creed. No, they say that one for the third one.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
The Creeds.
It's a little weird that this one is that Ryan Coogler is only the producer on it, right?
Is he I thought he was directing it again.
No, it's a different director, different writer. Sylvester Stallone still has a writing credit on it, which he had a writing credit on the first Creed.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of the first Creed was Ryan, because I didn't watch that movie for a while, and then it was on Hulu, and there was like a day where I was like, okay, I've heard good things.
It wasn't Stallone's idea in any way. Like they all approached him, and they're like, "Hey, he kind of looks like Creed. Could we make a Creed film?" And he's like, "I like this idea." I was like, "Do I have to do anything?" Well,
can I just walk around in a hat and have cancer?
He's like, could I be Mick, I guess? Or like, sure, I guess.
Yeah. But it's funny because I really enjoyed it. Like movies like that are really hit or miss, because I feel like if it's not done very well, it can end up being boring about just like, I got to overcome my past. But like, I was just glued to that shit. And then I will go back now and just watch the fight at the end, because it's really like.
Creed is a really good film.
Going.
The thing about Creed that I think works, but that shows that it works, is the fact that you can take a massive pop culture character like Rocky, and then like turn him into the guy who's wearing a hat, the side character wearing a hat and has like erectile dysfunction kind of thing,
right? And
have people go, that's the best performance he's ever done, kind of thing. You'd be like, you can do that with him, and that's like a lot of other movies where the main character is now a side character. People give it shit all the time, but not Creed. I've never heard anybody give Creed shit for that.
I also really like it because the Rocky franchise, I mean, I guess there's been some of this in like James Bond, but because it's been different actors, it's not as much. But like, I kind of am enjoying watching Rocky like age. Like it's not like they don't just pretend like, oh, Rocky's this immortal character, and it's not like Rocky the next generation. It's like, no, Rocky got old, and like, Adrian died, and like he's a sad guy, but he's kind of just living his life and running his Italian restaurant, and he's got, because even Rocky Balboa, I thought,
love Rocky Balboa,
really good. So the only thing that I wonder about this is whether, I mean, like Rocky 4. This kind of starts to turn into a superhero movie.
It was a superhero movie, though.
Because Ivan
took down communism with his fist,
right? and Ivan Drago's taking like look, the training montage for the evil players in Shaolin Soccer and Ivan Drago's training montage are kind of similar. Like if a big black spirit came off of Ivan Drago in Rocky 4, I wouldn't have been super surprised.
It's a lot of steroids and robots and shit.
Yeah. So
or Rocky's outrunning cars for some reason.
No, that's the one where he's just like running up a mountain, right?
Yeah, but he outruns a Russian car spying on him or some shit.
Yeah,
because it's a really long montage.
It is
of him like carrying wood and shit.
But I don't know. I mean, the first one was good, so I'll give this one a chance. It looks. I mean, the trailer's like pumping, and it's just I get a little nervous. I especially get a little like, this is the logical place to go from. He has established himself to like the son or whatever of the man who killed his father, the robot clone of the man who killed his father, whatever. Like, okay, there's a lot of drama to be wrung out of that. I just hope that they do it well.
Yeah, it all depends on how they treat everybody, like the history, I guess,
right,
of Rocky.
Because even the guy that he was fighting in Creed was like kind of. He kind of had a character arc kind of his own, of kind of being a jerk, and then at the end being like, you're all right.
That's what I like about Rocky films, is that even the bad guys sometimes have their own character arcs, except for like after 2 it sort of doesn't anymore.
Except for Mr. T, who was just like the devil.
He's just the worst human being and caused Mick to have a heart attack and shit.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of weird shit like that. But Like, yeah, not the antagonist with quotes in Rocky Balboa. Even he has his whole character arc of being kind of a shithead and being taught the lesson of humility, kind of thing. By the time it's over,
Yeah.
And it's funny because they asked Sylvester Stallone years ago. It's like, what do you think happened to Ivan Drago? He's like, oh, he's probably dead. And they're like, what? He's like, yeah, he
lost the fight.
He lost the fight. This country probably fucking hated him, and he probably died of pauper or some bullshit. Because this communism, if you fail them, you failed them. And everyone was surprised that he was so blunt about it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll tell you something else that's really blunt, and that is the way that Sony has been dealing with Fortnite. So I know that we touched on this a little bit when we were talking about
when we were playing Realm Royale, right?
No, not you and I. I think John and I kind of. I really didn't know that much about it until John talked to me about it. I think it was during the Switch conference where we were talking about the actual Fortnite announcement. So for anybody who hasn't listened to that, I feel like it's worth noting. So basically, what's happened here is they put out Fortnite on the Switch, and players went to log into their version. And if their account had ever been logged into the PlayStation 4 version, it was just like, sorry, Charlie, this account is invalid for use on this platform. So, and I've tried to look this up, and I think that the same thing happens on the Xbox One, but I've seen some conflicting reports where, like, if you logged into the PS4 and then you tried to log into the Xbox One, like, it'll work on the PC and the iOS version and the Mac version, but it won't work on the other consoles versions.
Yeah, the PS4 doesn't work on the Xbox One.
Now,
pretty much the same way, but no one ever said anything because they have one or the other, so there's no reason to ever bring it up. Right,
which is a little weird. Now, for anybody, I feel like there's the first thing that came to my mind, at least, was like, it's a fucking free-to-play game. Who the fuck gives it? Make a new account. Like, what do you care? But there are the microtransactions that you put, and there's a progression that gives you a bunch of cosmetic unlocks and skins and stuff like that. None of it affects the game. So I think that some of the, like, super outrage is a little over the top, considering what you're dealing with are emotes and costumes, right? Like, it's not like you have access to the fucking fire bullets on the PlayStation version that you paid $4 to unlock.
They want their sweet ass jacket. That's what they want.
Right. and I understand that. I understand that. I do, though, think that, like, there's a certain level of just, like, fucking screaming and waving your fist in the air that's maybe a little bit much for cosmetic upgrades.
You have to remember, these are all teenagers. Like, they don't exactly have that much money. They're not like me, who has rebought Ghostbusters like 12,000 times.
Yeah.
Or rebought, like, the same DLC for, like, multiple versions of a game kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I can also see it being really difficult because the other thing is that there are seasons of Fortnite, right? And every season has both a track for regular play and then track for the Battle Pass play that unlocks things as you level up. So your goal every season is to level all the way up to get all of the things in order to then, because when the next season starts, then it's a different set of things. So I understand. And please don't. Well, I don't know. You can comment. I don't read the comments anymore. You can you can at me about, like, why this is a big deal that the free-to-play game won't let you have your cosmetic microtransactions.
It's an accidental big deal because all it is it restarted the conversation about crossplay. Because when Rocket League was super popular, everybody was talking about crossplay with it, and Sony was like, everyone was wondering why you couldn't crossplay with Sony and Xbox, and Rocket League just outright said, "Oh, well, that's Sony."
And Minecraft as well.
Yeah, and so it was this big deal then, and then it just died down, and everybody forgot about it. And that's all it is. It's just it restarted that conversation, I think, more than anything.
Yep. Now, unfortunately, Sony has done a pretty bad job at managing this. They basically... what was their release statement was something like...
It was, hey, we're listening to you.
We're always open to hearing what the PlayStation community is interested in to enhance their gaming experience. With more than 80 million monthly active users on the PlayStation Network, we've built a huge community of gamers who can play together on Fortnite and all online titles. We also offer Fortnite crossplay support on the PC, Mac, and iOS and Android devices, expanding the opportunity for Fortnite fans to play on the PS4 to play with even more gamers on other platforms. We have nothing further to add beyond this point.
See, that's different than the last statement they gave, though.
Yeah.
Where the last statement was, they're just like, we're listening to you, kind of, and they said nothing about it at all. It's really bad.
Well, the one I'm reading is from June 14th.
That must have been a little bit after that, then.
May have said more since then. Now, I think that the biggest question that's probably on everybody's minds is why, right? Like, why would you do this? And what is it? John Smedley? Is that who it is? Yeah, John Smedley, the former CEO of Sony Online Entertainment, kind of came out and said, by the way, when I was at Sony, the stated reason internally for this was money. They didn't like somebody buying something on an Xbox and it being used on a PlayStation. Simple as that. Dumb reason, but there it is. Which has a certain amount of merit, but I think the problem here is that you should just let them do it. Like you're probably you're probably causing more headaches for yourself on a PR front than what you're going to get as far as lost sales from allowing this crossplay to happen.
The main problem is like him saying that kind of proves something though, is the fact that he knows it's dumb.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of people who have no control over what they're doing. A lot of times it's these board of directors, bunch of old Japanese dudes that don't understand why people are mad about random shit like this.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep poking them and be like, hey, we can just do this, just let us do this. And they're just like, well, no, we have to make sure the bottom line, all that, like just a bunch of money jargon thrown at them. And that's basically what he's saying. Like he's like, eternally, he's like, all they did was throw money jargon at me, but it all just came down to the word money.
Mm-hmm. And it's also worth noting that this is not the first time. There are plenty of things that, like, okay, I know what this sounds like. I know that, like, there's going to be some people out there that and I am a big fan of Sony, right? So I do have a bias in their direction. I'm not excusing them. I don't let them off the hook. I understand that this is a way big deal for people who are interested in that game. I'm not as invested in that, so obviously I'm not quite as, fired up as a lot of the people that have Fortnite. But like, remember that Nintendo takes all of the money that you make as a Let's Player? Remember that? Remember how that happens?
Oh, yeah.
That's still, it didn't stop, y'all. It hasn't ever stopped.
It's still a thing.
Right? Or how, like, if your 3DS failed, you can just re-download. You were fucked. All your purchases were just kind of fucked unless you sent it to get repaired or whatever. Like, there have been some things that have happened that are unpleasant.
Nintendo was the king of we don't understand why you were mad for a long time.
I got to go back in time, but I'm saying all this just
like region locks are a pain in the ass, and Nintendo keeps adding it to random shit.
Oh hell! I mean, you remember until they got raked over the coals, for a hot minute there, week, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
like Microsoft was. Hey man, you fucking consoles got to be online all the time.
Yeah,
and
like that was a thing.
No used games
that people still believe to this day.
Yeah. So let's chalk this one up to stupidity amongst the industry. Now, I do think that at this point, Sony should relent. Should just hit the switch.
It's going to be a fight.
But the other option, but that's a good question, because the other side of the coin is it? Or in 2 weeks when there's a new trailer for whatever, are we all just going to forget about this? Because nobody is still out there. I mean, people are just like grumble Rocket League, but nobody's like, I threw my PlayStation in a ditch. I'm never buying another Sony product again because I can't get I can't play my friend's Xbox with Rocket League, right?
Yeah, the speculation right now is that Sony gave those weird statements purely because they're just going to forget.
Yeah.
The same way, like as you mentioned with the Rocket League. They're just literally just going to forget. They're going to go back to their fidget spinners and their exploding hoverboards or whatever, and they're going to forget all about this.
Well, I mean, okay, it's an interesting question. It's like, okay, let's say you have a PlayStation 4. Let's say your PlayStation 4 is your primary video. Okay, let's say you have a PlayStation 4 and you have a Nintendo Switch, right?
Yeah.
And you played... you played Fortnite on your PlayStation 4, and then the Switch version came out at E3, and you were like, holy shit, and you downloaded it, and it was locked out, and you were like, fuck. All right, let's see. What's the next big cross-platform game that's coming out? Wow, July sucks nutsack.
Gundam Breaker.
Yeah. Let's see. Octopath Traveler. I mean, the question is whether, like, the next big thing that comes out, are you going to not buy it? Like, are the next big Sony thing that comes out? Because I just don't think anymore, unless the yelling gets to epic proportions, the only way to get companies to stop doing this shit is to hit their pocketbooks, right?
Yeah.
Like
EA proved that their pocketbook can get hit hard.
Right. Which I feel like that was a combination where the uproar, because that wasn't just like players are upset. That's players are upset, and you've got the media all over it, and like the government is starting to sniff around about like how legal are these.
They nuclearly fucked up is the thing.
Yes,
this is normal outrage that pops up every now and then, and these people are just gonna forget about this. And it's hard to hurt somebody's bottom line when your game is free to play.
Yeah.
So it's not really, there's not much you can do about that.
I mean, well, here's the thing. The last story that I have here for this is that last week, Sony's stock dropped by 2%.
That happens every time they make a bad movie, though.
But yeah, whether that's, the thing is that if you care about it, it basically has to be like, it has to be a sustained campaign that has enough people to make them understand that they're going to lose money if they don't change it, right?
It has to last for a while, though.
It has to last, yeah.
Sony does not like to budge on things. They're stubborn as shit. Like when the PS3 came out, they're like, I understand why no one's buying a $600 console.
Get a second job. There's another one of those garbage things.
The fuck, Sony?
Yeah. Well, you just
we lost the console. I don't understand.
Yeah, that was another really good one where Sony just put their fingers in their ears and went la 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 for about 3 years. The PlayStation 3, where they were like, well, when you go to a restaurant, you get a steak. It costs more than a hamburger, you guys. It's
it was really bad.
Please do not patronize me, Sony. Come on.
Like, it's the most powerful thing ever. You'll buy whatever the fuck we tell you to buy.
Yeah.
Because at that point, everyone was worshiping Sony because of the PS2.
Yep.
And so they just assumed everyone would just worship the shit out of them still.
Hey, you know what? They probably could have gotten away with selling PlayStation 3s for like $100 more than Xbox 360s. But it
was like $300 more.
It was so overpriced, and I had a Gen 1 PS3, and I liked it because it had all that backwards compatibility in it, which they figured out. Nobody gives a shit about that, but but as a Blu-ray player,
apparently, ironically enough.
Well, yeah, then there's that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd be interested.
I found one at a flea market, or not a flea market. I found one at a pawn shop in Round Rock not too long ago.
Oh, a fatty? One of the
I almost bought it, but I was like, I don't know, because the first gens kept exploding, basically.
Wasn't there a second gen fatty though that were the first one where they took the emotion engine out of it, right? So it was
So
you got to check which version it is.
There were like 3 or 4 versions of the PS3 itself.
Because then they went to the Slim, but that was like 3 or 4 years in.
Yeah, they went to the Slim, and then they went to the other Slim that has the sliding top.
Yeah,
which I had after a while.
Yeah, I didn't have that.
Somebody turned one of the old fatties into a girl. You remember that?
No.
Somebody
yes!
took out the guts. Yeah, turned into a girl.
I do remember that.
Shit was amazing.
Anyway, I don't know. So if you've got a Fortnite on the PlayStation 4, the only thing I can say is keep up if you really want that cross compatibility to happen, keep it up, or abandon your PlayStation 4 account altogether and go play on a different platform. Like if they see a big chunk of people leaving, that might do something, but otherwise, I don't think that just being very angry about it is going to.
It's not going to work for this sort of thing.
You know how angry everybody is all the time about everything?
Oh, absolutely. like Star Wars, they're always angry about something.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something that's not to get angry about, and a reason that I kind of like Sony because they do stuff like this. Sony is bringing back the hits, the PlayStation hits.
I've been waiting for them to do this for a while, though. I'm amazed they're just now doing it.
So PlayStation 4 is now, for those of you who don't know, Sony has had, I think it started on the PlayStation 1, right?
PlayStation's greatest hits.
Yes.
They used to have a green color.
Yeah. So every generation has had basically these greatest hits, and the greatest hits have always been like $20 as opposed to whatever the retail price is.
It would vary on whatever the game was. But it was usually like, 20, 25.
But they're rolling out their first set of hits, and it's pretty cool because the first one in alphabetical order is motherfucking Bloodborne for $20. But Bloodborne, Drive Club, Infamous Second Son, Killzone Shadowfall, Little Big Planet 3, Ratchet & Clank, The Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4, Battlefield 4, Doom, Project Cars, Street Fighter 5, Yakuza Kiwami, Yakuza 0, Metal Gear Solid 5, all for $20. God damn. Like when you think about the
Is that the complete edition of Metal Gear Solid 5?
Yes. Yeah.
It's pretty good,
has
actually.
Ground Zeroes and Phantom Pain. So
$20 is actually pretty good.
Yeah. I think it's already that right now on an E3 sale on their store.
I think it was like 15 actually.
Their sale right now is just
it's pretty ridiculous.
Fucking nuts. But like, you know, I can't speak to any of those that are racing games or like Battlefield 4. So, like, if you take out Drive Club, Battlefield 4, Cars, Project Cars, A Little Big Planet 3, I feel like what you've
I'd
got
take
there,
out Street Fighter 5, to be honest.
Street Fighter, maybe Street Fighter
The
5.
arcade edition is already the better idea.
But, you know, $40 for Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza 0, that's like
pretty good, actually.
120 hours worth of Yakuza games. Like, Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us, like, these are some really good deals for $20, basically.
Well, those two, I think, are already 20, to be honest. Like, I got Uncharted 4 for $10 used at a GameStop because they had so many of them at one point. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's always nice when they codify the price drop.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, you can go to Walmart and get it for that kind of thing.
Like, it makes me want to get a copy of Bloodborne, a physical copy of Bloodborne, just to hand to people and be like, hey, play Bloodborne with me.
I have mine still.
Yeah.
But I also have the PlayStation Plus one that they gave out, too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. Nobody wants to play Bloodborne. Nobody wants to play Bloodborne.
that's great. I love Bloodborne.
Well, so one of the games that you can play in here is Yakuza 0 and Yakuza Kiwami, both of which have a pretty big presence of one of my personal favorite characters in video gaming, and that is Goro Majima. And recently in an interview, one of the Yakuza series producer talked about, he basically just did the thing where he's like, you never know, but I didn't know that I wanted this until now. A Goro Majima spin-off game that's just Majima, and I'm just like, oh, that, yes, please. Have you played the Yakuza games?
Not really, no. I've watched a lot of people play them because they're just really long.
Yeah.
And I just don't have time.
Oh, man. They're so good.
And there's so many of them, too.
That is true. I mean,
they're at like, what, 7 or 8 of them now?
there are 7 counting zeros.
Yeah.
Yakuza 0 through 6.
It's fucking crazy. Like, I remember when my roommate first came in with, I think it was like 2 or 3, and he's like, you're never going to believe how awesome this is. And I watched it. I'm like, this does look pretty awesome. But I didn't realize how popular it was at that point.
Yep. It's actually, I feel like they've really had a resurgence between Kiwami and 0, and then like the announcement that Yakuza 0 or Kiwami is going to be released on the PC. Both those games, 0 and Kiwami, are coming
didn't
to
they
PC
say
for
they're going to make like a remaster of the first few?
Kiwami 2 is coming out this year, and then they're going to be releasing, I don't think they're going to be remastering, but they're going to be releasing 3, 4, and 5 on the PlayStation 4. Mm-hmm. So by, I think, the end of next year, you'll be able to play every game in the Yakuza franchise on your PlayStation 4.
Oh, nice.
So, but yes, give me all the Majima games. He's a crazy motherfucker. In Yakuza Kiwami, he's trying to test Kiryu and like actually makes all of his minions dress up like zombies so he can have a fake zombie apocalypse attack to see how Kiryu would react to that.
That sounds kind of awesome.
Kicks everybody's ass. He's like, great, I knew you could do it. Bye! And then just like kind of runs out. The only thing, I'm wondering if at the end of Yakuza 0, because he seems like a pretty normal guy in Yakuza 0, and by Yakuza Kiwami, he's turned into like a fucking crazy man who wears this like snakeskin jacket with no shirt on underneath it. And I'm like, did he get a head injury like towards the end of Yakuza 0?
He fell into a vat of chemicals.
Yes, that's right. Yep. All right, so speaking of craziness, last week, guys, I got to tell you, there's not a lot of news this week. There's a lot of trailers, but we're going to be talking about some weird stuff like the Fortnite thing and maybe repeating ourselves a little bit. But in this case, the World Health Organization came out and officially recognized gaming addiction as a thing.
Huh.
So I don't know if you've seen this story.
I have not.
But basically, their criteria are... First, the person in question must exhibit impaired control over gaming, such as its frequency or a decreased ability to stop. Next, the behavior has to be so pervasive that it takes priority and negatively affects other elements of daily life. Finally, gaming has to continue to escalate despite negative consequences. And then you can technically be classified as a gaming addict. Or you can just make a job out of it like I did.
Yeah.
And then get a Patreon and a YouTube channel, and then like you can just make money off of it. I mean, I don't know.
People are trying, but it's not doing so well for everybody else. A lot of Twitch people.
And then the Entertainment Software Association responded because I think like they were not entirely pleased with the idea that the thing that pays their bills had just been classified as mental illness or potentially mental illness. And they said, quote, video games across all kinds of genres, devices, and platforms are enjoyed safely and sensibly by more than 2 billion people worldwide, with the educational, therapeutic, and recreational value of games being well-founded and widely recognized. We're therefore concerned to see gaming disorders still contained in the latest version of the WHO's ICD-11, despite significant opposition from the medical and scientific community, et cetera, et cetera.
The amount of people who've died in South Korea from heart attacks from the amount of shit they've done kind of proves you need that, though.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, like, people work themselves to death. Like, there's a guy I watch on YouTube that made a good point where he said that, like, there's a report recently that said that, like, there are a large number of people that watch as much as like 5 hours of TV a day.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's 35 hours of TV a week. That's a full-time job that you've made out of watching TV. And yet, I hate it when video games, as the new kid on the entertainment block, and they're just like, well, with these video games, they're just ruining their lives. They're playing too much video games. Does anybody want to talk about the number of hours that people are like people are looking at their phone? Like, I feel like opening Instagram is way more addictive,
really bad right now
than video games.
They made a whole movie about it that I really think is great.
Is that Ingrid Goes West?
I fucking love Ingrid Goes West. That movie just made me go, I'm really glad I don't have an Instagram account.
Yeah, I've largely disconnected from just about every piece of social media in my life.
That's a good move. I keep considering it, but everyone I know, I only have them attached that way.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people actually have my number.
Yeah. Well, also, my phone stopped getting text messages. So,
really?
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know. Like, I have to wonder whether. Okay, so the problem that I have with this is there's always people that do things to an extreme, right?
Yeah.
There are people that eat to an extreme. There are people that smoke to an extreme. There are people that fucking drink to excess, right?
Yeah, there are people who die from a lot of these things.
Right. So I think that, like, the difference between. I mean, I guess the thing is, I would need to know this, right? Normally the way that I think about addiction is when you're addicted to something and you stop doing it, you go through like physical withdrawal symptoms, right? When you take somebody away from World of Warcraft and make them go outside, do they start like shaking and sweating and like throwing up and stuff because they can't get their World of Warcraft fix?
I knew a guy who he was my friend's roommate. He was borderline like that.
Okay.
In World of Warcraft. He all he did was play the game.
Mm-hmm.
He never went to class. Didn't really shower because of it.
Gross. And
even if you got him outside, all he wanted to do was play World of Warcraft.
Right.
But like, it wasn't like, throwing up, but he was like visibly like, I need to go back. I need to go back inside to play World of Warcraft.
Right, but I feel like there's always like there are some people in this world who become obsessed with a thing, and the idea of having like a classified mental illness as opposed to like, this guy's way too into fucking take your pick, Magic the Gathering or whatever.
Sometimes
right? Like,
all it is, it's just they already had something else going on with them,
right?
That just so happened to manifest into the gaming part of it. So even the people who've died from gaming essentially died from like ingesting too much of something that caused their heart to explode,
right?
More than them gaming,
right?
Kind of thing.
I just there's a narrative in the culture about how gaming is this dangerous thing that's it's totally different than, like, if you listen,
it's totally different than watching an R-rated movie apparently.
Well, it's totally different than reading a book, right? Like, if you had a bookworm, right? Somebody who just like to read all the time, like, that's not considered mental illness. That's just considered somebody who's like kind of a recluse who likes to do a thing.
Like, that dude's really smart kind of thing.
It's actually seen as a positive thing, or like it's just a trope, like you see it in movies or whatever, or like somebody like Brian Salisbury, who I'm watching Brian Salisbury's Twitter, and he's talking about, I watched this crappy movie last night, and I watched this crappy movie, and I watched this crappy movie. It's like, watch just movies. He watches movies all the time. Like, a dude loves movies, and he watches lots of movies.
Yeah.
So, like,
that's a movie buff.
That's not looked down upon as mental illness. That's looked at as like a person with a hobby that they're intensely into. So people have had hobbies where their life suffered because they were too into their hobby to fuck with life, right? And when that happens, I just don't like the idea of making this mental illness, because again, it identifies video games as something different and evil instead of like comic books or movies or TV shows or video games. Hell, we we have a term for sitting down and watching like 14 hours of Netflix straight, right? And nobody's like binge watching. Like nobody says binge watching. Nobody's ashamed. Nobody's just like,
no, because there's some people who are ashamed of saying that.
Fucking binge watch.
But it depends on what they're watching.
Binge watched Orange is the New Black. Oh, that's so gross, right? And they're like, oh man, yeah, you shouldn't do that. So that's what I don't like about this. Is it's not necessarily because it's kind of silly on its own. It's just that there's a stripe in culture of vilifying video games as this dumb thing for nerds that's harmful to.
Well, it's
whatever.
As you said, it's the new kid on the block. We've seen this with literally everything at some point.
Yep.
Like comic books went through it to the point where there was the comic book code authority.
Yep.
Like every new media goes through this. Like it'll die down the same way the Fortnite thing will.
Well, the problem that I have is that so far there hasn't been another thing, right? Is that video games are still like the new entertainment media on the block, even though they're 30, 40 years old at this point.
Every time they try introducing a new thing, it doesn't really become the new thing, I guess.
Right.
Like I can't even really think of anything that's
I'd say
like
cell
4D,
phones.
I guess.
So I'd say cell phones personally. Like I feel like cell phones do have a little bit of a stigma attached to them, but nowhere near. But then it's like, they're playing games on their phones. See, it's the games again.
The thing is, the games get interlocked back into it more than anything. They don't mention the Instagram person who spent $10,000 worth of getting themselves in the debt because they wanted to be an Instagram famous.
Did you know?
That's a thing too, actually.
Did you know? I'd heard this is a sidebar real fast. Did you know that I think it's like, is it Instagram or is it a different thing where it's like if you and me are friends on Instagram, there's like a number by your name, and if you message me and then I message you back at least once every 24 hours, that number goes up by 1. It's like a streak. Like every day that you and I exchange at least one message, even if it's just like smiley face, thumbs up, that number goes up. But if we ever skip a day, that number goes to 0. And you start over from scratch. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? I know how much humans love numbers. Like there are probably 14-year-old girls that are just like having a panic attack because they might not be able to get home by 7 p.m.
What is this?
To message Stacy to make sure that the number doesn't go away because they've got 470 days of continuous messaging with each other.
That's either Snapchat or Instagram. It's one of the two. It has to be
Snapchat. I think it's Snapchat. I think it's Snapchat, actually. Thank you. But yeah, I heard about that on a podcast, and I was just like, oh no.
Yeah, they added a gaming element to the... Or not a gaming element, you know what I mean? That's the problem. I said gaming element. That's the other issue.
It is.
Anything you mention, even with Instagram or all that, is you add the word gaming to it.
It's gamification.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, we gotta start moving.
Yeah, let's keep moving.
Quit bitching about Instagram. Speaking of bitching about Instagram, Cyberpunk 2077 will let you take selfies. I don't know if that's true or not. I had a better transition, but Cyberpunk 2077 apparently will let you have a bunch of diverse romance options.
It'll let you send more dick pics to whoever you want.
Yep. So you're going to be able to choose your protagonist in Cyberpunk 2077. The one they showed in the trailer is just a placeholder. So you can be a dude, you can be a lady, you can customize, and then apparently you're going to be able to kind of just pick your romance options, which is something worth noting because, you know, Geralt was in The Witcher and Geralt slept with ladies. So like
every lady.
Yeah.
On top of unicorns.
Somewhat. As I understand it, if you bone Triss, then Yennefer ain't fucking with you, right? Like
I don't know. I never played it.
You gotta take a pick.
I just saw a lot of people post him fucking with people on unicorns.
Yeah. But yeah, they're basically looking to do that, so you can expect. Well, actually, no. I think we gotten over it. I think we gotten over the whole like Fox News is like, oh, guys are kissing in this video game.
People were still giving it shit.
Really?
Like I heard a lot of people were upset about the Last of Us 2 thing.
Oh,
and
yeah, okay, but
some people were starting to are still kind of being an idiot about it.
But was it the news or was it just like people are angry on Twitter? Because that's everything, right?
I don't know because I didn't look too deeply into it.
I do know that when I was watching the Sony...
Like, I know a Giant Bomb mentioned it or something at one point.
The Sony E3 live stream on YouTube, like the replay of their like 7-hour daily streams. And while between interviewing people, they would show trailers. And every time that trailer came up, the chat was just like, ew. And then half the chat was like, bleh, bleh. And the other half of the chat was like, you guys, it's fine, man. Lesbians. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I'm not there.
I think like as a whole, we've gotten over Because I don't think Fox News has bigger things to yell about right now.
Yeah.
And so they haven't really brought it up as far as I know. But, like, people are still being weird about it.
Yeah.
But this year has been, to quote a friend of mine on Facebook who's gay, the gayest year for gaming they've seen on E3. and they were super happy about it, except for the Snake thing, because his ass is no longer apparently, like, firm or some shit. Something like that.
What?
Because in Smash Brothers, Solid Snake, his ass is no longer defined.
Oh.
And that's why he brought it up, because he was pissed off about that.
Okay.
I was just like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, yeah, Snake doesn't have an ass anymore. I'm like, okay then.
Strangely, as many Metal Gear games as I've played, I couldn't tell you much about Snake's ass, even though I've been looking at it for roughly 10, 15 years and
apparently in
several
Smash
hundred
Brothers,
hours.
they super defined it as
Okay.
Smash Brothers Brawl.
Okay.
And so in Ultimate Smash, they just made it flat as a pancake.
All right. Maybe that'll be their next E3 Direct, Nintendo Direct, is they could talk for 4 hours about the definition of Snake's ass.
Yeah, how they changed it to keep him from dodging or something.
Yeah. Speaking of CD Projekt Red, we also got confirmation. This is a weird one, and I don't know. It was a slow news week, so I just pulled this up. Somebody asked one of the developers, the Quest designer, where they asked if Cyberpunk 2077 might be designed for whatever the next console generation is going to be, and he was like, "Nah, bro, it's going to be on this console generation."
They're trying to trick them into admitting that there's a
PlayStation
a new gen
9 or an Xbox 2. What do you call the next Xbox? Xbox 2?
I don't know.
Xbox 360.
So you go Xbox
One.
360 One. So
Z-Box.
Xbox 720 was the joke that for a lot of people had.
Yeah. Xbox something. I bet it's just as a subtitle.
The Xbox Infinite. I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, I can't wait for Cyberpunk 2077.
The Xbox of War. That works.
There you go. Speaking of things that were at E3 that I'm not entirely looking forward to, Fallout 76 had some news that we didn't get a chance to track. Apparently, it's going to have cosmetic microtransactions in order to fund the DLC.
Oh.
So, I mean, like, look, I haven't read the comment section because I just can't on these E3 things, but like,
Yeah.
like somebody kind of added me on Twitter and they were just like, what do you know, they were like, Fallout 76 has quests and it also has VATs. And it's like, okay, it has VATs, but it doesn't have stop the game VATs. It's got this thing called, quote, real-time VATs. And I'm like, but that's not VATs.
What does that mean, though?
If I have to make a guess, I would assume that it's like you're going to target a body part and then get bonus damage with a timer that
Kind of just shows
regenerates.
the point of VATs, though. You think about it?
Well,
Might as well just aim like a normal person.
yeah, yes, I agree. And then also there was a Todd Howard interview, and that was kind of went around on GameSpot where they
You
talked
can
about.
always VAT them in the dick. Then it's worth it.
That's true. That's true. Where he said,
Test to kill will be the name of the achievement.
That's some Bulletstorm shit right there. Where he said that also there's no NPCs in Fallout 76. That there is a quest, but it's all by holotapes. And I'm like, okay, so this is Rust. This is like
Yeah, no.
Rust or DayZ, right? That's what this game is. It
makes sense from a story point, though.
Right.
Like they made sure of that. Like the fact that he's like, every character is not an NPC, it's a person, because you were the first people to go outside
Right.
and nuke each other.
Right. But okay, so what this sounds like is there's a loosely defined quest structure. There is no VAT. There is no big storyline, right? There might be some kind of storyline, but it's obviously not going to be get the water chip, find your father, find your son, find your kid, get the guy that shot you New Vegas style. Like, it's not going to be one of those. It's going to just be kind of like, oh, well, what happened to the people who left all the vault? Like, go track them down. Like, oh, they all died. And then in between, you're going to be building and surviving and hanging out with people. And I'm just like, again, and then this talking about cosmetic microtransactions that will fuel later DLC. It's like, I don't think this is the game that when you say Fallout, none of what I just described is what I think about. And it may be a good thing, but generally speaking, if you describe to me a game with that feature list and you didn't give it a name, you were just like, survival game, you're going to play it online with your friends, the third-person shooter, you have some kind of mechanics, there's going to be a bit of a story, but it's mostly going to be playing online with your friends. I'd be like, I don't know that I'm really interested in playing that game.
Yeah, that description that you gave, the thing about Fallout, at least in my understanding from Fallout 3 and up to I think about 4, is the side characters really give a lot of fun in it, because there's I was listening to my friend play Part 4, and it was the Shroud, was that the name of it, the superhero thing that you can get in Part 4?
Oh yeah.
And like the one of the things that made him laugh the most was that you would listen to his message or whatever, and he's just like, save yourself, and then he gets shot and he's like, oh god, come for me.
Yeah,
like just fun shit like that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, side characters really can make or break a game sometimes.
Yep.
And not having them at all sounds really boring.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you know what it is there are people out there that are very much into the survival genre. I'm not one of them. Like, I played Minecraft, and then I've tried some of the other ones, not really as much. Like,
yeah.
I'm like the things that they're focusing on in Fallout 76 are just not things that appeal to me. They're like, you could build a whole house. I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah, they're like, you can build a house and then have somebody nuke it because they're bored.
Well,
it's like, well, that doesn't make me interested.
But here's the thing: they couldn't nuke my settlements in Fallout 4. I didn't care about my settlements in Fallout 4.
Yeah,
I was just like, fuck, I don't give a shit. They'd be like, settlements under attack. I'm like, shut up! I'm playing a story about a bunch of robots. I don't care about fucking the dude, the Minuteman guy, and his dumb thing. Like, I wanted. Plant enough crops so that you guys can not starve to death, and then I'm fucking out of here. Like, you build society. I'm not going to come back and do this. I think that whole DLC that was like, it put in like conveyor belts and sorting machines, and it was like dun dun dun, 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 and we can like sort your things. And I was like, who fucking care? Well, like, okay, I don't fucking care.
Well, it's one of those things where they'll make a DLC for something, and you're just like, I don't understand why you did this.
Right.
But there are people who will play that. But the problem is that's just not for us. Kind of like everything that you've mentioned, like literally the entire sentence that you mentioned when you were saying all of the things about Fallout 76. I was like, I hate everything about that sentence.
Right.
Like, none of it sounds interesting. But like, the only thing that sounded interesting to me originally was the idea of playing Fallout with friends. But the idea of playing a Fallout where nothing is actually happening with friends, kind of destroys the point of that.
Right. Exactly. You would like to. Like, it'd be cool. You remember how Star Wars The Old Republic worked? How when you play it online and you get in a conversation tree and, like, whoever picked the conversation the first, that character would talk, and then you have, like, different renegade interrupts that would move the conversation. Like, that sounds really cool. Like, if you had a thing where, you know, change the Fallout talking structure so that it's more of a Mass Effect kind of a faux cutscene, right, that's happening.
Yeah.
And then let me and my buddy play it, and then, like, he can be the loose cannon, and I could be, like, the nice guy, and I could be like, Michael, stop telling them you're going to eat their faces off. I know you're a ghoul, but that's not...
Yeah, because the whole fun about a co-op game is being kind of stupid with each other and messing with the world.
Right.
But if there's no world to mess with, then there's no point.
You can mess with other people, but they mess back.
Yeah,
like,
and they're way better at messing with you than they are, because they're like 90% teenagers sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I don't play Grand Theft Auto online. Like, I started it, but then I was like, man, I am not cut out about being a dick to other people, because people are fucking crazy.
And that's what that game is, apparently. Anyway, I'll tell you what's not going to have DLC, and that is Project Octopath Traveler. That was an interview. The producer, Masashi Takahashi, basically said, like, no DLC. This is a finished product. It's done. You're going to play it, and then you're going to play it. So, cool.
That's kind of refreshing to hear.
Yep. I tell you what else is refreshing to hear. Let's check out my segue game today. Is toy. Is that Devil May Cry Devil May Cry 5 is apparently 75% finished.
Yay!
So, you know, I'm glad that we got one game at E3 that's not like 6 years away.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bethesda and fucking Nintendo, like, how about something that's coming out? It's coming out next March, and
Capcom has been throwing a lot of Devil May Cry stuff at us lately. Like, they added the ability to gain Devil May Cry costumes in Street Fighter V.
Oh, okay.
Like, you can get a Dante outfit for Ken, and a Nier outfit for I don't remember his name. He's one of the new DLC characters.
Man, they love that shit. They fucking Capcom's in love with the sound of their voice. Like, all that Street Fighter and Monster Hunter, and they put a bunch of Street Fighter in, like, Dead Rising, right?
Well,
like,
there's the meme of featuring Dante from Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
And they keep doing it.
Yeah.
They did it in Monster Hunter, did it in this. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite has them. Like, there's a lot of games that just have featuring Dante from Devil May Cry.
Like, I get it, Capcom. Anywho, well, from there we're going to jump into our trailers, and we're going to do it pretty quickly because we only have a few minutes left. So we have a bunch of E3 trailers that we didn't get a chance to talk about because John and I pretty much killed ourselves just talking about just the conferences. So, first up, there was a new Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise trailer, which is the Fist of the North Star game that is being made by the Yakuza team that is coming to, I believe, the PlayStation 4, and I'm not sure what else at the moment. This looks really fun, and I think this trailer had a lot more blood than the previous one did.
It really does. People are literally just exploding the way you want them to.
Yeah,
but a game like this,
Fist of the North Star, that's what you want. Now, are you a big fan of Fist of the North Star?
I was. It was one of the first animes I kind of watched. I never really finished it though.
Me neither.
But
I remember
it's one of the
first four.
like everyone always talks about how insane JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is, but JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was also influenced by Fist of the North Star.
Oh yes,
like Jonathan Joestar is literally just Kenshiro. And Kenshiro is one of the most OP fucking anime characters in existence.
Yeah, he's kind of like One Punch Man.
Yeah, absolutely. Like everyone's always like, I want One Punch Man to get in a fight with Goku. I'm like, I want One Punch Man to get in a fight with Kenshiro, because literally only one of them has to hit the other one once,
right?
And they would all die.
So yeah, lots of blood, lots of guts. I like the look of this. I like, the fact that this is being developed by the Yakuza team. Like, I really like. I think that they make a good combat system, and like when you play Yakuza, there's a lot of kind of like cinematic fighting where they really know how to frame somebody getting punched in the face, like to make it really just look like, oh man. So it seems like the sort of thing that would work very, very well in a Fist of the North Star game.
There have been a few attempts at Fist of the North Star games, and the last one was a 360 game that was apparently garbage.
Was that the Omega Force that makes the Dynasty Warriors game?
I think so, if I remember correctly. And it came out on the 360, and I was just like, I remember being really excited because I like the idea of Fist of the North Star as a game.
Yeah,
but I remember hearing so many people just like, don't. It's really bad.
It kind of seems like the Dynasty Warriors would have been a good choice for that, but I kind of like the idea because it
still had like boss fight kind of things, and it's not as interesting.
Yeah.
When it comes to a character like him, whereas I think based on what we've seen here is that it has more of a like you can have one-on-one fights be kind of fun. And kind of thing. Whereas Dynasty Warrior games aren't really designed for that sort of thing.
Like, I feel like Yakuza's always been more concerned with like the quality of your opponents than having like a gajillion at one time around you, which is good.
I also like the fact it has a dual audio option.
Yep, and we got a release date, which is October 2nd of this year. It's coming out in the United States, which is good because it already had a Japanese release date, but we didn't have confirmation.
Oh, okay.
Next up, Desert Child, which is a really, really, really interesting looking game. This was kickstarted, and it's kind of like a futuristic, like racing combat type of thing. But all the characters, it kind of reminds me of like something like Flashback or Out of This World, where it's like nobody has any facial features, and it's a lot of kind of big, colorful masses that don't have a lot of detail in them, but they all move really well.
Like it's got a nice art style. It kind of makes me laugh because some of it reminds me of the motorcycle level in Battletoads.
Okay,
kind of thing.
That. Yeah,
but overall it's mostly just that, and that can be fun for a little bit, I think. But I don't know.
Well, there also seems to be a second thing that we're not seeing entirely, which is there's also some kind of like walking around, talking to people, buying upgrades,
like
that kind of thing. Yeah, so. I don't know. If you haven't ever heard of this game, it might be worth checking out because the art style on it really is striking. But that's going to be coming out pretty soon. From there, this is we got an E3 trailer for Mutant Year Zero, a game which has gone from nothing to just like so on my radar. Had you seen this before?
I've heard of it, but I never really watched anything on it.
Yeah, it's like a third-person XCOM style tactical game, but it looks really good. Like it's just very, very, very nice looking.
I like the art style a lot.
Yeah. There's a detailed gameplay walkthrough that you can find online that kind of shows the way that the three different characters go, and then you can kind of like you can set up ambushes by because it's like it turns into turn-based once hostilities start, so you can actually like set everybody up to an ambush point and sneak through, and then like once the shit hits the fan, kind of go from there, which I appreciate.
Got that Howard the Duck like vibe.
Yeah. Well, they have all these different weird mutations, and then like so the duck has those wings, but they're like these big bat wings.
Yeah.
But you can actually turn them on and turn them off. Like it's like you have a certain number of slots that you can set.
She's like the Thing. Apparently, she can become the Thing.
Yep.
Which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah. So
he's just a warthog, apparently.
But yeah, Mutant Year Zero. I'm looking forward to this one quite a bit. Because,
I like the idea of it quite a bit, but I'm really bad at those kinds of games for some reason.
Yeah. Let's see. Next, we finally got an actual gameplay trailer for Call of Cthulhu, which looks appropriately psychotically insane.
Yeah.
I find it's always very difficult to do eldritch horror in video games because I feel like eldritch horror works best when I don't look at it, when I'm just like imagining it in my head.
Well, that's kind of the point of it. Because a lot of the times it's just like, a lot of the times when something's described, it usually uses the word undescribable.
Right.
And so when you try making a game that describes it, it doesn't become as scary to you.
Right.
Kind of thing. And like, so it can work if you have somebody who can design something that's creepy enough.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere works, but it really depends on the people who make it. Like that's why it's so hard to really do Cthulhu based anything.
Right. I don't know, but it looks pretty good. Like it's got a lot of really interesting, like there's kind of a montage. The other problem that it has, like I guess Amnesia kind of had a little bit of kind of unknowing strangeness to it, except that like then when you actually look at the character models, it's like, oh well, that's not scary, that's just some bullshit. Like
like I think some of the games that do some of the body horror stuff the best, like Dead Space is pretty good about it.
Yeah.
And movies that kind of allude to the idea are pretty great, like in The Mouth of Madness. Like that one's pretty good about it because it doesn't always show you what the monsters are, so it goes back to your imagination.
Right.
But it's tough. It's really hard to do something like that.
Yeah, I agree. Still though, looks interesting.
It could be good. I'm hoping it'll be good.
I tell you what else looks interesting, but maybe a little bit too terrifying for me is a Plague Tale: Innocence, which is another Focus Interactive published thing, and it appears to be a medieval thing where there's a lot of rats eating people.
There's a lot of rats.
Did you ever want to see somebody get eaten by 1,000,000 devil rats? Well, have I got a game for you, buddy?
It's Indiana Jones's dad's worst nightmare.
Yes.
Henry hated rats.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really tell very much from this, like what this game is or what it's about.
Yeah, like the only real thing is that it seems to have maybe a mechanic where the flame keeps you from getting eaten alive right away
by lots of rats.
And that's about like the only thing I can grasp from it.
Did I mention that there are a lot of rats? Because there are a lot.
They're all stealing pizza and taking it into the sewers, subways, that sort of thing.
Speaking of rats, a rat was our viewpoint for the Resident Evil 2 trailer at E3, and we got a full-on kind of 5 or 6 minute walkthrough video of Resident Evil 2. Is it wrong for me to have this be one of the most exciting things that came out of E3?
No, this was like, I was so insanely excited for this because one, Capcom had announced it some time ago, and two, it actually looks, it's the best way for me to describe it is it looks like what my child brain thought Resident Evil 2 was.
Okay, yep.
Like, because when I was a kid, Resident Evil 2 was the scariest goddamn thing I'd ever played in my life.
Yeah.
And so this game just sort of brings back the memory of, oh, Resident Evil could be fucking terrifying.
Well, it also seems like it's working off of the Resident Evil 4 model. Now, you can shoot and move at the same time. I think it would have been really interesting if they had been brave enough to basically take away, because I still think that not being able to shoot and move at the same time.
Yeah, tank controls will fuck you up.
No, I mean, I'm not talking RE4 didn't have tank controls, but like you had to plant yourself.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's like you had the big horde coming towards you. You had to decide, am I going to shoot or am I going to move?
Yeah.
I recently watched.
It's probably because the amount of enemies they can put in on the screen that kind of makes you need that sort of thing.
Well, but again, RE4 did that, and I
don't know.
They had a lot of enemies on the screen. That whole fucking village comes after you at the beginning of RE4.
That's true. RE4 fucked me up. I'd finally beaten it not too long ago.
Yeah, but
really hard.
It looks really good, and it's also kind of interesting to see them go backwards from RE7 as opposed to a Resident Evil 8. But I'm hoping that this gets the Raccoon City shit out of their system so they can make something good like Resident Evil 7.
Well, people have wanted a remake of Resident Evil 2 for a long time.
You know what I want is a remake of Nemesis, because there's not a good version of Nemesis.
No, there's not a good
there.
version of 3 at all.
Like I tried playing it on like a GameCube emulator. That was about as much as I could get, but like it always looks like garbage. Like it always looks pretty bad.
It's just, the thing is, it's the same thing with Final Fantasy 7, where when somebody says like Resident Evil, for a long time their first thought was Resident Evil 2,
right?
And when somebody says Final Fantasy, a long time their first thought is 7.
Yeah,
and so it's just that era that people want to relive.
Yeah,
even if it's not necessarily the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, it still looks like it's going to be good, so we'll find out.
I'm like hella excited
in January. Let's see. We're going to skip a few of these. Gungrave VR looks like garbage to me.
I really like Gungrave, but even I think this looks like garbage.
It looks like I don't like to say this very often, but like this looks like a PlayStation 2 game to me.
Doesn't even. It barely even looks like that though.
It's like all the animation is super stiff, and all of the the way that the reticle grows, but it doesn't, like, it's like they just zoomed in on a JPEG.
It's really strange. Like, I've been such a big fan. Like, I was such a big fan of Gungrave that one of my first emails was Beyond the Grave.
Yeah.
Because that was the guy's full name. Like, the first game you can beat in, like, an afternoon, and the second game, like, has 3 characters that you can play. But this, like, I don't know what the fuck this shit is.
Yeah, it's kind of... I mean, I was hoping that was just that they were just going to take the first game and then make it into a VR game, but you're telling me that none of this stuff is from the first game.
None of this stuff happens in the first. Like, he's wearing his Part 1 outfit because he has his hat and everything.
Right.
But this, like, none of these guys are really in that. Like, that whole sequence of the train, like, that game was really short. Like, if you ever played the first one.
Yeah.
It's like 7 levels long. It takes like an afternoon to beat, and it's like hella hard. The same with Part 2. But every single one of them has like a distinct storyline that's going on with them.
Yeah,
like the first one's about revenge, and the second one's just about like defeating an organization that is like, you know, creating these zombie things.
Well, I don't know.
It's just like
sometimes stuff doesn't look good in VR, and then it ends up playing well. When
like I've wanted a new Gungrave thing for a long time, but not like this.
No, not like this. And finally, one of the strangest trailers this week was the trailer for Westworld, which is very, very odd because the people in this game, the art style of this game is like Fallout Shelter, right? It's like this kind of just these 2D animated.
Well, no, they like the way I was explaining like last time is they look like those kid adaptions. Like, you know, when you buy a kid adaptation of Star Wars that's made for like a 4-year-old.
Oh,
it looks like that art design,
kind
of thing.
But it's like, make a hooker.
But yeah, it has like the super deep, serious voice.
Service your clients. Like, make yourself and then put yourself in the park and see if you're a debauched lunatic. And I'm like, what?
It's really fucking weird. It's like, we ever wanted to make cybernetic hookers? It's like, what?
But like, do you watch Westworld?
I saw the first or parts of the first season.
It seems like they're actually trying to adapt what's happening in the actual Westworld story into this weird phone game. And I'm just like, why are you doing this?
It's so strange.
Seems very weird.
You're like, build the Westworld of your dreams. I'm like, this is just Simpsons tapped out, basically.
You mean Westworld?
Like, what is this?
What are you talking about, Westworld? But like, they keep showing sequences of like the kind of fucked up brain stuff that was in the series, and like they can obviously murder each other, they can obviously fuck, like we've seen all that in this weird trailer.
Strange.
It's so bizarre. Somebody play this and tell me whether or not it's any good.
It's the voiceover that really sells it, though.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's wrap it up. We got a few more things here. Something's coming to Overwatch. Don't know what. Blizzard's teaming it. They just had a picture on Twitter of like an alley with some graffiti. One of them it says no bots on it. Some of the speculation is that it's another one of the monkeys. That the monkey here is another one of the test subject monkeys from the series. I can't wait to find out what, because I like me some Overwatch. And last but not least, hey, gamers, how many of you are 9-year-old girls? Raise your hand. Because have I got
Matt Frank, put your hand down.
Matt Frank, not you. Have I got a story for you? Because American Girl has put out the American Girl Xbox Gamer Doll set.
Oh my god!
Have you not seen this?
I have not seen this.
It's fucking amazing. You guys need to go look this up. It's got a little Xbox One. This is the little Xbox One, a little Xbox One controller that can go in the doll's hand. Oh. She's got a headset and like a gaming chair, like one of those chairs.
Holy shit!
And then the Xbox One projects like a single screenshot of a game out of it, so they could be like pretending to play a game. And there's like a little ViewMaster thing at the top that you could put different fake game things into. This is bonkers bananas. And I hope that it sells 1 billion copies.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's $50 to get all this stuff for your American Girl, right?
It should come with a Mountain Dew and a Doritos option.
Yeah,
I used to stock the when I worked at Target. I used to stock the accessories.
Yeah,
I could totally see them selling that as an accessory.
Oh, and this chair has a speaker in it.
Oh my god!
That you could plug a headphone jack into.
Holy shit!
So you can make your little American Girl doll pretend to play Xbox One. I kind of want this
just because it's so amazing.
Do you have an American Girl doll?
No, but I used to stock these things a lot, and I kind of want one of these.
Money though,
right?
Yeah,
it's kind of like you buy like basically a set doll, and then there's like a shit ton of accessories and like horses and shit you can buy for them.
Horses. Anyway,
it's crazy.
That's all the news that we have for this week.
That's amazing.
We're going to take a break while Michael continues to geek out over the American Girl Xbox Gamer Doll. We're going to be back in just a minute, though, with some questions. So stick around, and we'll hit you up in just a sec. And we're back. And before we get to the questions, Michael, I played the ever-loving crap out of Prey Moon Crash last week, and I want to say, just as a brief review, anybody who hasn't watched any of the videos that we've done, Prey Moon Crash is a $20 add-on for Prey that was announced and released at E3. It's basically 5 different characters that are kind of going through the same area that's kind of got a few things randomized. Like there'll be doors that are locked that weren't locked before, or like some areas are inaccessible, or you can only get to them via other solutions. Like when you and I played it for Patreon, and I showed you it's like a blocked thing that one of the characters can use the morph ability.
Yeah,
you turn into a cup and then just roll through it because there's a little crack. It's based on the idea that you're going to play it, and then you're going to rack up a bunch of points playing it that you can then use to buy starting equipment for like the next person. But it all takes place in the same area. So the whole point of it is like, if you go through with one character and just strip down every single item from the area, and then your goal is to get all 5 characters out on the same run. So if you strip an area to the bone and then you come in with the next character, it's like, well, there's nothing here but what you brought with you. So you can kind of make tactical decisions about, like, some characters, I try to just like run to the exit as fast as I could, and then some characters I would be really methodical about trying to get stuff. Every character has it's like you have to get them out, and they've got a story mission that you have to do, and then in between there's an interstitial that's a character that is like a hacker that's working for a rival corporation that has been given all of this information. To what you're doing is essentially recreating what happened in the Typhon outbreak on this moon base that was related to Telestar for a rival corporation. And so there's a framing device where you kind of jump out of the game every so often, and there's some story beats that happen. All in all, it's really good, and it was like 12 to 14 hours long, which I feel like was really good value for a $20 DLC. And if you played Prey, I feel like it's kind of a no-brainer, especially because each one of the characters has a different set of skills. And so, like, the guy that's good with the guy that has the tech tree that is basically like make your guns shoot harder, that guy doesn't have any powers, and he can't do the crazy shoot a fireball out of my hands, but he can shoot a shotgun really well. So it's like, if your normal way that you play the game is sneaking, there is a sneaking character, but when you're trying to get the guy with the shotgun out, you're going to need to just go in there fucking guns blazing and use a different set. So it really forces you to kind of see all of the different ways to do things in Prey.
Yeah.
So I really liked it. Anyway, mail@radioslide.com is the email address. And our first question this week comes in from Whiskey Howl. And this is more of an admin question, and it's about Patreon. And so I thought I'd put it first just so that people knew. He says, "Hello, Jeff and sexy Michael. I have a question concerning Patreon. Since I finally got my first job as an independent salesman, oh, harsh world, I want to become a Patreon supporter. But since the website has turned into a dumpster fire, is this still possible at the moment? I remember you, Jeff, mentioning Patreon videos on a secluded part of YouTube, so I assume one can become a supporter and watch these videos on YouTube. Kind regards, and keep up the podcast train going off the rails. Whiskey Howl of Flanders, Belgium." So this is just briefly because I really for about 5 years now have needed to re-record my Patreon video. Whiskey How. The Patreon videos have nothing to do with the website. They also don't have anything really to do with YouTube. What they have to do with is every Monday I send out an email that has a big attachment of a database with all of the links to all of the previous videos, as well as just a big old list full of links. So if you sign up through Patreon, it's completely disconnected from the website. So you don't have to worry about the website being a dumpster fire. Patreon's still going to happen because it's mostly set on YouTube. In fact, I was even thinking about when the website went down, like if worse came to worse, I could always just basically run Rage Select off of Facebook, Twitter, and the YouTube channel. Like, I don't need a website. I just like having a website. It makes me feel like
it helps.
An important big boy to have a website, right?
You get the point at it.
Yeah.
That shiny thing.
Yeah. I actually need to shut down my previous hosting company. I have I'm paying them like $100 a month or something, and I realized that they just auto drafted last month, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm not even using that anymore. I'm gonna turn this shit off. So anyway, if you are interested in becoming a patron, as soon as you become a patron, you get put on the list, and every Monday, usually in the evening, I send out. Sometimes if I get really harried, it'll end up being later than that. But for the most part, I try to hit around somewhere between late afternoon and evening to send that out. Anyway, our first other for realsies question comes in from Hannibal, Montana. Hannibal writes in and says, Dear Jeff and Michael, recently on a lark, my girlfriend and I binged through Skin Wars on Netflix. The show is a body paint competition that brings artists of all backgrounds, of all different backgrounds and temperaments. We ended up staying up until 2 a.m. for 2 straight days because we were so emotionally invested. Watching the quiet, most unpretentious artist of the group, who I thought would be one of the first to be eliminated, somehow survived to the end and become champion was one of the most satisfying arcs I've seen on television. Hey, spoiler alert, Hannibal, Montana. Goddamn. What are some reality TV shows that had you invested in the people as much as a good fictional show? Or if neither of y'all really watched anything like that, are there any reality shows that you like? I've also got hooked on Netflix Nailed It, which features amateur bakers trying to put together intricately designed sweets and mostly failing. My girlfriend was watching that for a while. Your humble listener, Hannibal, Montana. Michael, what do you think? Do you watch reality TV?
When I was younger, I used to watch a lot of The Real World.
Oh, okay.
That's about all I remember.
Really?
I didn't watch a lot of the newer ones. Like, I think I watched some of Survivor, but I didn't really care.
Oh, okay.
But no, The Real World. I remember The Real World and what the fuck was the road trip one?
Road Rules.
Road Rules. That was another one that I watched a lot of. But it was mostly because my brothers were really into it for some reason.
Okay. But nothing past that? Nothing recent?
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head. I remember I watched, like the last one I really tried to kind of get invested in was the Penny Arcade had a reality show where they were hiring like artists. They're trying to like hire an artist, so they just had like them all try to become a like it was like kind of like Real World. Like they had challenges, like they would ask them to draw stuff for certain people, and there was some cool stuff in it. But like overall, like I'm just not a big fan of watching people like struggle for something they may or may not get.
Okay.
And then I remember there was that Sony
the tester.
The tester.
Oh,
like you get to win to become a video game tester. I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah. Anybody who's ever either known or been in QA was just like, that's not a prize. That's a job, motherfucker.
Yeah, it was not.
Okay,
was not
well,
really
you know
stuff.
what? I got a ton. I was just thinking about them in my head, and apparently, like, I'm fucking all over reality TV. My girlfriend likes it a lot, so she's dragged me into. There's 2 shows that I really like. One of them is, she was watching for a while that was Face Off, which is basically people making special effects makeup.
Oh, okay.
And they get like a theme, and they have to kind of decide, and they have to design a thing, and they have to like sculpt it, mold it, put it on a model in like 3 days, and then bring it out and show it to the judges, and they're all just like, oh, this seam is wrong, or like whatever. But it's really cool because you get to see all these crazy prosthetic creations that people are making. I think a lot of that's on Hulu.
Yeah, it was a sci-fi show. Originally.
Another one that's on Hulu is called Forged in what's it called? Somebody out there is screaming Forged in Fire. which is a blacksmithing reality TV show.
That sounds amazing.
It's really cool. Like, it starts out, every episode's the same, and there's no every episode introduces contestants, and then there's a winner at the end, and then they move on to 4 new contestants. So the way that it works is it starts out, and everybody has 3 hours to basically, they'll give them like a thing, right? It'll be like, here's a car. Make a knife out of any part of this car. So you have to they have to cut pieces off the car and then forge them into a billet, and then they always usually make them a knife at the beginning one, right? So everybody gets to make a knife, and they have 3 hours to do it. And then once they get done, one person is eliminated, and then they have okay, now you're going to make a handle and go back and try to fix anything that's wrong with your knife. And then we're going to do a bunch of tests where we're cutting stuff and stabbing stuff and see if your knife is sharp and if it can cut and if it breaks. And then it's one person is off the show then. And then the last 2 people, it's all right, now you have 5 days to make, and then they always have a different thing. So it'll be a gladius or a longsword or, one was a shield, a pointed shield, right? One time they had a spear, right? And so these guys then get to go home to their home forge for 5 days and work on this thing, and then they bring it back, and then they put it through a bunch of things. I swear to God, I'm going to spoil the Claymore episode because I was on the edge of my seat, right? So this guy, they make claymores, the big Scottish sword, right? William Wallace claymores.
Yeah.
And they're so big, right? So they bring them in, and they have this big hunk of meat or this big I think it was a sandbag or something. And so they have the one guy, this Asian guy that's the tester who does all this stuff. And it's so funny because they have these competitions. They have do you remember the Modern Rogue where they made the gelatin Jason head?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but it's a torso that has all these bags of organs in it.
Oh, okay.
So he'll jam the whatever their thing is in there, and all this goop will come out. And whenever it's successful, he always grins and nods, and he says, "It will kill," to the contestants. And I'm always just oh God, this guy's a psycho. Anyway, so spoiler alert for the Claymore episode. They brought the 2 Claymores in, and he goes to swing the first Claymore, and when it hits, it might have been a carcass. It literally bent in half.
Jesus.
It was too thin, and when it hit with the force of the swing, the blade just warped in 2 around the thing. And was basically just burp, burp, a 90-degree angle. And I was oh, God, he lost. This is the guy that I liked. He totally lost. And it's then they go to commercial break and they come back. And they're okay, time to test the other one. And I'm oh, this guy's just going to win by default. Look at his beautiful sword that didn't bend in half. And he hits this thing, and the sword doesn't bend. It shattered.
Jesus.
Half of it just broke off and went flying over to the other side of the room. And it was oh, shit. So they actually let the guy with the bent sword straighten his sword out, and then they tried a different cutting test with it, and it passed. And they were you win. And I was just
wins by default at that point.
I've never been more invested in a thing in my life.
I just remembered a couple ones that I used to watch.
Okay.
American Inventor.
Okay.
Was one where they just had a bunch of people. It was kind of like Shark Tank.
Okay.
Before they made Shark Tank. And it had the British dude that was an asshole, and the guy that's supposed to be nice but's kind of an asshole. It was one of those shows that tried copying American Idol.
Oh, okay.
But with people inventing shit.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that it's not a competition one, but I watched a lot was American Chopper.
Okay.
I watched a shit ton of American Chopper.
I watched a little bit of that when I made an ad for Scam School that was the meme right on the week where the Choppers meme was a big thing.
That the actual thing where that come from is actually really intense.
Oh no, I've watched it.
Yeah, because it's the guy firing his son.
Yep.
And yeah, my brother was a big fan of that, and I ended up watching a lot of it because they would make these really badass bikes.
Mm-hmm.
They made a Spider-Man bike that I thought was just fucking gorgeous. But a lot of stuff like that, and yeah, I watched a lot of those. I accidentally watched the Cake Boss once. And he. He made me start saying computer machines because he talks about getting something that prints stuff. He's I got this computer machine that you can print on cakes or whatever. And I'm what the fuck is this?
Nice. Yeah, I also, just as a brief thing, I'll put out, I never would have watched it on my own, but I've seen just about all of the Great British Baking Show.
Really?
It's a, look, I mean, it the Great British Baking Show started happening on my TV around the same time that I was cooking, and I was just like, oh shit, like Paul Hollywood and fucking Mary Berry out there, like making these guys be like, make a fucking French pastry, or except it is the most gentle reality show I've ever seen. Like when the person has to get voted off the show, everybody hugs them, and they're just like, oh, we're so sorry, you've got to go. But the polar opposite of that is that I am willing to watch any fucking show where Gordon Ramsay yells at people. I have seen every episode of Kitchen Nightmares. I've seen every episode of Hell's Kitchen. I will watch Gordon Ramsay yell at people forever because he's like the best at yelling at people. I even went online. I had to kind of do some extracurricular activities. He had a whole 4-part Kitchen Nightmare series about British expatriates in Spain running restaurants that were failing, and he'd come in and he'd be like, no, you can't do this by yourself. Like it's always the same. I never get tired. I watch Hotel Hell. I've watched every episode of Hotel Hell numerous times. I don't even know if people know that show's a thing, where Gordon Ramsay goes to a hotel and he's just like, it's fucking filthy in here. Shut it down.
Yeah, they've been trying to make more shows like that. The Bar Rescue is another one that pops up.
Yeah,
I just was on Spike TV for a while.
I'm not interested if it's not Gordon Ramsay yelling at people, because I thought Gordon Ramsay was a real prick for a while. Like I remember when my roommate like years ago used to watch Hell's Kitchen. I was like, why are those chefs letting that man yell at them like that? They've all got knives. Fight back, motherfuckers. And then I went and looked at like what Gordon Ramsay has done in his life. I was like, oh no, he can yell at whoever he wants to.
It turns out he's like the sweetest dude on the planet.
Oh, sure.
Because he has another one of those reality shows where like kids are making these things.
Yep.
And he's always super nice to the kids.
Yep.
Like he never once he really yells at them. They're just like, oh, you just calm down. You're okay. You're going to be fine kind of thing.
Yep.
But then it cuts to like him yelling at an adult for being like the worst person ever.
Yeah, if you want to get it's the greatest Kitchen Nightmares of all time. Go watch the one with Amy's Baking Company, which you probably have heard about. But
everyone,
yeah,
oh Jesus,
yeah,
that was a fucking clusterfuck.
Yep, and
even he was like, I don't want to do.
He
this.
left. Yeah, he didn't do anything. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough reality TV. Let's see. Signature here, so I'm going to call you Gilgamesh. Writes in and says, "Dear Jeff and Michael, I read out a news story saying that GameStop may be bought by a private equity firm. My immediate worry are the pre-orders for Red Dead Redemption and Spider-Man that were at risk that I couldn't get a refund. I pre-ordered through GameStop, and when I traded in my PS4 for a PS4 Pro, I bet GameStop is going to downsize in a year in a major downsize." Sorry, this is a little bit difficult reading here. In a year, with more of digital taking over the gaming market, are my worries overblown about losing my money? And that's from Gilgamesh, not their real name. That would be kind of cool.
I think he's overblowing it, to be honest. Unless GameStop itself literally just goes bankrupt, he's not going to lose his money.
Yeah, I don't think a private equity firm would buy them and then just be like, "Guess what? We kept all your money, suckers."
Yeah, like
you
GameStop,
get a lawsuit at that point.
At that
right?
point, and GameStop's really good about pre-orders. A guy who had pre-ordered Duke Nukem Forever kept his receipt and picked up his copy because he had all of the shit that he said that he pre-ordered. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get your stuff.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Now, the more interesting question is how long GameStop is left for the world, because you can see it when you go in there and you see all the comic book crap and toys and junk that they've got all over the place. That
they keep adding stuff to it.
Games aren't cutting it anymore. So they have all this merch and all this bullshit, and
they bought what the hell's the name of it? The one that always has the
Applebee's.
Not Apple. No, it's the not Loot Crate. What the fuck is the name of it?
Nature Box.
It's the people who make they have the April Fool's joke and then they actually make it or whatever.
Oh, like ThinkGeek?
ThinkGeek, yeah. They had bought ThinkGeek or whatever, so they added a bunch of ThinkGeek shit to their stuff. And so you see all the backpacks and accessories and shit out there. Then they said they're going to start selling comic books or something.
One of the major problems that I have with GameStop is that whenever, I feel like every one of them, it feels like a local comic book store. It feels like it doesn't feel like a chain. Like it's never laid out cleanly. Like the all of the toys and the figures that they're selling, I feel like half of them, like they just don't look right. They're never laid out nicely. It's not a nice store, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It always feels like everybody's like it's a local business, right? It's like a business that some guy runs where they sell, all this bullshit. He's like, oh, I don't know, just put the Funko Pops over there, right? Like it never, like you go into like a Best Buy, right? And Best Buy is pretty evenly laid out. Even if it's not the best, but they got racks with the stuff on them. And GameStop, I feel, is just fucking Wild West. It's just like, I don't know, put a thing over there and a thing over here, and then there's games on all the walls. And
yeah, I went to the one near Lakeline Mall recently, not the mall one itself, but yeah, like there's a section where it's like it's got a glass case with these statues in it. But above that is like a series of random fucking cups and random shit that people put on top of it.
Yeah.
And then to the left, there's like a spot where there's supposed to be shirts, but like half of them are unfolded or thrown around, kind of thing. And then there's just random toys like laid around and just shit on the ground for some reason.
And I know that might be somebody. I mean, I don't know if anybody who likes GameStop is left on this website, but like before you say, well, there are a lot of kids that come through in GameStop and they trash the place, and it's like, yeah, but like, there are ways around that. There are ways to mitigate that, and you could keep your store clean. Like
the problem I think they have is there's like two guys there at a time.
Yeah.
At most.
Yep.
Like I remember when I went to pick up that Switch, there was like two guys there for the entire fucking night. Like
for the launch of the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, for the launch of the Switch.
Yeah.
Like they had one other person show up. And it's because they worked at the Lakeline Mall one, and they came there because their pre-orders had to be picked up there.
Right.
Which and that was literally the only reason that guy was there.
Woof. Yeah, I don't know. I think that we might be seeing, I mean, probably not right away, but, like I look at the E3 sale on the PlayStation Digital Store and just fulfillment from places like Amazon. That's not even to mention that like local. See, I guess here's the problem. Any big AAA game, you can buy it at Target, you can buy it at Best Buy, you can buy it at Walmart.
Great sales too. A lot of times
you could buy it at a lot of different places. Are going to stock God of War, right?
Yeah.
And then when it comes to something like Senran Kagura, right, or like Tales of Berseria, or some weird XC JRPG, Witch in the 100 Night 2, right? Sometimes the big box stores have them, but then GameStop is also 50-50 with those. Well, they get like 2 copies in, and then if it's a thing, then it's gone by the time you get there.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, why don't I just order this off of Amazon, who is definitely going to have it? They're definitely going to send it to me. Why am I even bothering with this if I don't want to get locked into a dumb pre-order?
And Amazon even proved that they're willing to hang on to those Japanesey things that other people don't. Like the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure PS3 game.
Yeah.
It was an Amazon exclusive for like the longest time. Like, you literally couldn't find it anywhere else. I had to trade in stuff to a GameStop to get an Amazon gift card to buy JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle.
Nice.
Because I had no other way of doing it. At the time, I had no money. And so it's like, yeah, GameStop is desperately trying to keep itself afloat by throwing more accessories onto themselves.
I just don't know that the used game market is what it once was. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that Sony, Microsoft, Steam, Nintendo have all realized that they can do a discount weekend where they slash 70% off the price of a thing and get a bunch of people to buy a game they wouldn't normally be buying because they're like, what the fuck? Or like, oh man, I heard that Vampire game is pretty good. What is it? Like, it's $15 this weekend on sale with PlayStation Plus? Why not?
They're also getting smarter at letting people be able to buy their games physically cheaper.
Yeah.
Like when Ocarina, like the 3DS games, Ocarina of Time, when the 3DS one first came out, was ridiculously hard to find for a while. But then they came out with their own, what is it, Nintendo's, not the greatest hits, but I forgot what they called.
Oh, I don't know. Classics?
Something like that. Like it's got like the specific little gold thing on it. But they started coming out with that for their 3DS games, so now you could buy them for like $20. And so it's like, yeah, they're starting to realize the reason people buy used is because they don't want to spend $1 billion on their games. Player's Choice, that's what
Selects. Nintendo Select.
But yeah, they used to be called Player's Choice before that. But that's the thing, is that they're willing to do that now. They're starting to realize that the reason the used games are big is because people just want to spend less on something they want. And that's why I think that's one of the main reasons the used market isn't doing as well as it used to.
Yeah.
Which I think is honestly a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Well, mostly because, like, listen, I'm not a big fan of when GameStop, buys your used game for $5 and then puts it on sale for $25, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a huge markup for a used game, and just, like I don't know, that kind of, I don't shop at pawn shops and I don't buy used games at GameStop, especially because it's just so easy to get stuff on sale. Like they slash prices so quick that Like, if I didn't have to have this stuff the day that it came out, I mean, you know, if I was a regular gamer, if I wasn't doing Rage Select, I think I would have taken my own advice a long time ago, which was find a big RPG, find something like Yakuza Kiwami or Persona or The Witcher 3 or something like that, and play it, and just make that your game that you play, right, for like 6 to 8 months. Then just start getting the stuff, like, unfreeze your calendar at that point and be like, I'm going to get the stuff that came out 6 months ago because you're only going to be paying $30 for it instead of $60 new. Anyway. All right, Tom writes in and says, hi there, Jeff and Michael. If you were gay, what would your perfect man be like? Would you have video game crushes? More serious question. I'd like to hear your opinions on the LGBTQ plus representation or underrepresentation in video games. Do you know of any games with queer protagonists? The only one I can think of right now is Night in the Woods, with May being either bi or lesbian, and, of course, Greg and Angus being gay. Hashtag Greg rules. I've never related so hard to a game before and would love more like it in my life. Thanks for the amazing podcast and video content. Proud regard from Tom. You think it's MySpace, Tom?
Maybe he's really into real estate.
That's
I made a short film about Tom a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
My film courses.
All right, let's see. Who's your video game man crush?
Nathan Drake.
Okay. I think probably Solid Snake.
That's a fair answer, though.
David Hayter's silky voice can whisper me off into dreamland.
I think Nathan Drake just aged better.
Yeah.
I think more than anything.
He's a charming motherfucker.
He's super charming.
He's a charming motherfucker, man.
I feel like I could hang out with him and not feel weird. Where Snake is just going to be like, war has changed. They're like, oh, God, Snake, I heard it for the 4th time.
Well, I'm thinking Metal Gear Solid era Snake when he was a little bit more flippant, you know.
Yeah, but he still talks like that either way.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
You just wanted it because you can smoke with the guy.
Yeah. Snake and I still go smoke. As far as LGBTQ representation in video games, I do feel, I was thinking about this, and I don't know how many. I mean, like, okay, listen, I'm probably just talking out my ass here, right? But, like, I was getting some real, like, not Life is Strange, but Life is Strange Before the Storm, where those two girls were, like, hanging out on a train and under a bridge, like, cutting class together, and just like, ooh.
I thought that's what it was, though. Like,
I thought that's what it was, too.
Everyone was telling me, because I never played it, but everyone was like, it's a great gay relationship. I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I'll go with it.
Yeah.
But no, like, the thing that gaming has more LGBT representation than any other media right now.
You think
so? I think, honestly, like, or maybe TV, I think, has them slightly beat. Because movies just outright fucking refuse to really give them anything. Like, there's a character in Jurassic World the new Jurassic World that was supposed to be gay, but they just took out the line where she says she's gay, basically. And then Holtzman in the Ghostbusters reboot was supposed to be gay, and they didn't let him do that either.
Yeah.
Whereas games are just like, yeah, fuck whoever you want. We don't fucking care. Like they're more and more they're letting you do romance options that are just like fuck whoever.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Is like what? Well, okay, but you know what? That's not entirely true because in like Amanda told me that in Mass Effect 3. Like, right, there's only the one guy, only like the pilot or whatever is gay. So if you're doing male shepherd and you're looking to have, you know, your dude crush, that there's only like one character who really responds to that.
Yeah, but the thing is that was kind of the beginning of all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Because a lot of characters just weren't allowed to be gay up until around the time Mass Effect 3 came out.
Right.
But the thing is, it's ramped up so much more since then.
Yeah.
Like you had the character from Mortal Kombat X that's gay, that Liu Kang is weirdly homophobic towards if you fight them with him, which is very strange. You know, Ellie is gay from Last of Us. You know, like a lot of your character romances. All of the stuff that was announced this year, you know, they announced that you can have a lot of romance options with the new Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
You know, the Ellie's relationship's going even further in Last of Us 2.
Cyberpunk 2077.
2077. That sort of like, we're gaining more and more representation of that in video games than we've ever had.
Yeah. Which I think is good. I
think it's great.
Dragon Age probably is the winner on this, right?
I never played it, so I couldn't say.
Pretty sure there's a lot in Dragon Age.
Plus, people mod a lot of these games to give themselves that option,
right?
And I always think that's a lot of fun that they're able to do stuff like that. Whereas movies just fucking straight up refuse sometimes.
Yeah,
like TV has been pretty good about it lately. But I still remember the time frame where the 90s was always the super flamboyant guy kind of thing.
Right.
But now we're getting the people that are very just normal, serious people, and I like that about the current climate of games.
Yeah.
Comics are starting to ramp it up too, quite a bit actually.
What? Mario? I'm looking at a Wikipedia page with. Oh, okay. This is a list of games with
Birdo,
LGBTQ characters.
Birdo.
Yeah, but I was like, Super Mario Bros. 2. It's Birdo as a trans woman. I'm like, okay.
Technically, Yoshi's gay.
Nope, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, I don't know. There's Vamp in Metal Gear.
Yeah, Vamp
Metal
was
Gear
one of the first like really big like just I'll fuck anything characters I ever saw in a game.
Yeah, Saints Row. Lets you
Saints
go complete whatever you want, whatever the fuck you want.
Keith David would not let me fuck him, and that bothered me greatly.
Keith David won't fuck anybody. All right,
I was so disappointed by this. I was like, God damn it, Keith David, love me.
It seems like the Sims have all had basically the ability to just have whatever kind of partner you want, which is good. I don't know. It's funny how I think about. Okay, so I know that we talked about this before about how like many games are basically targeted at me, straight white, early 40s dude, right? But I've liked between this year Yakuza 6 and God of War, watching game characters get older as I get older, and it's really kind of tickled me to be like, oh, I like how Kratos has gotten older and isn't just the same character right over and over and over again.
Yeah,
it's kind of the way we were talking about with Rocky at the very beginning. Like, I like the fact that Sylvester Stallone is getting older, and they're not just like, oh, I'm still 20. But that you can write characters that relate better to somebody who's older. It's like, right, when you're in your 20s, you've got fucking angry Kratos, and you're just like, I'm angry too.
My taste in anime has changed immensely because of that. Because I'm at that point where I'm like, I don't want to watch the teenager go to high school anymore. Like I'm done with it. That's one of the reasons I grasped on the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure the first time.
Yeah,
because I got to see these characters age. Like I got to see Joseph Joestar in his prime, and then him as a grandpa with his beard, but still like super muscular. But then I got to see him be like basically senile,
right?
Like right after that. Like I love when I get to see these characters age. I've seen Goku go from like a 12-year-old to like a grandpa. Like I love that shit. It's one of my favorite things is to watch somebody age.
Right. But
in media.
In thinking about that though, it was like normally I feel like I'm pretty open to I'll play whatever, right? I don't care what the person in the game looks like. I'll play who they are.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was an interesting thing to realize that I really dig these games of watching these protagonists get older, and I think it's because I'm getting older, so I relate. And so that made me think about how much closer of a connection a lot of people must have to games where they can see representations of themselves in the game, right?
Yeah, and that's the same with movies like Coco. I love Coco because it's a great representation of Mexican culture.
Yeah.
Like I adore that fucking movie. But I remember I watched it with Chris and he's like, I don't get it. I'm like, well, I get why you don't get it, but I fucking adore this film kind of thing. Same with The Book of Life when The Book of Life first came out.
Right.
But that was a good thing about that too. And I like the fact that games and movies are now realizing, oh, there are other people who have a lot of money that are willing to spend it if you cater towards them.
Sure.
And I think the gaming community started realizing that more and more with LGBT. I can never get the whole acronym. LGBTQ people. Yeah, there's a plus in there now, but they're starting to realize that all of these people, they want representation too, and I'm all for it more than anything.
I don't care at this point. You make games about whatever, and I don't like. I'm tired of having the argument, and I also come from a background where the games that I started playing were like a single pixel going bleep blop bloop.
Yeah.
So it's like that pixel didn't. I was like, hey, that pixel's red, and I'm Peach. I'm a white man. You're a red pixel, white. I can't play this game. So
I started in the 8-bit era where everything was a block.
Yeah,
a bunch of blocks that kind of look like a person.
Yeah. So to me, I'm like, hey, because okay, my whole thing about this, and I don't even have this argument anymore. Is like, if there's a market for LGBTQ plus people who are gamers, then if you make a video game, they will buy it, and you'll make a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And
unless it's Gone Home, because that one was kind of strange.
that's Gone Home made money.
Did it? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
A lot of people give Gone Home a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Because the entire thing is like, the twist is that the sister's gay. I'm like, that's neat, I guess.
Yeah. But I nobody's stopping you from making that game. So
luckily,
yeah.
And 10 years ago, they totally would have, though.
Well, I feel like years ago you would have had a harder time finding a publisher, and you would have probably had a harder time finding. Like, it's so you can make a game so much more cheaply these days than you could previously. So
you can make anything much more cheaply these days. Thank God.
That's true. So if there's an audience, you can slap it together, and you can be like, there you go.
Like Undertale's a good example of that. You can make a game for not a lot of money and make a fuck ton of money.
Yep. So. Anyway, all right, let's see what else we got here.
I don't even know if we answered that guy's question, to be honest.
yeah, I think we did. Danger Dave writes in and says, "Hail, fellows, and well met. I have a conundrum. I prefer the Xbox over the PlayStation, the controller, the user interface, the achievement system, and some of the exclusive series. So, with the latest gen consoles, I haven't gotten a PS4. However, several titles have been tempting me to buy one. Yakuza games, Horizon Zero Dawn, but most of all, Neo. I'm not a huge Souls fan, but I love the idea of having that kind of hyper-customizable gear and combat system with a bountiful toy box of mid-Edo period's arms and armor. So I've been about to pick up a Sony system. But lo, Sekiro Dark Dreams Don't Die Another Day, or whatever the devil it's called, shows up at E3 all hot and sexy, and now I'm thinking maybe this can scratch my itch without having to take the PlayStation plunge. What do y'all reckon? Fond regards, Danger Dave."
That's a tough question, but only because of the fact that it depends on how much money you normally make. The reason I say that isn't because whether or not you can get it, it's whether or not you can sustain having both at the same time. Because when the 360 and the PS3 came out, I wanted the PS3 because of different titles that were only on the PS3 for a long time.
Right.
A lot of them tended to be Japanese titles, the Uncharted games, the Ratchet & Clank games, that sort of thing. But I had a 360, and I didn't have a lot of money, and so I could sustain myself on one console very easily. But if I got that, eventually I got a PS3, but I sustained myself so much on the 360, I don't want to spend money on the PS3 at that point.
Right.
And so even though there were all these games I wanted to play on it, I just didn't really use it. Like, I ended up just using it for these Japanese games that my friend would buy me. Like, there was a lot of Gundam games, that sort of thing.
That's how I use my Xbox One. I mean, I only plug that thing in and turn it on when there's an Xbox exclusive game that I want to play.
Exactly. So the thing is, if you're willing to get one, but you're going to be able to play it more, then sure, go for it. But if you're only going to get it for like a handful of things, I would just say hang on to the one you have now. Like, I have a PlayStation 4, and it's the reason I don't buy an Xbox One. It's not because I hate the Xbox One. It's just that there are games on it that I don't really care about, kind of thing. Like the few games I want to play, it's like Killer Instinct, fucking Battletoads of all things.
Right.
Like, and what was it? Dead Rising 3 was only on it.
Dead Rising 3 eventually came to the PC.
Yeah, but like, I mean, the two consoles, though.
Yes.
They had...
wait, is Dead Rising 3 out on the PS? Did they finally release that?
I know they released 4 on the PS4. I know Sunset Overdrive was another one.
Oh, yeah.
I guess technically Halo, but I lost track of Halo after a while. Like, honestly.
Yeah, Dead Rising 3 is console exclusive.
Yeah, and honestly, like, it's not that I hate the PS or the Xbox One. It's just that there was way more things I wanted than the PS4, and a lot of them were, once again, the Japanese games, the Uncharted games, that sort of thing. That's why I was super surprised that Jump Force was at the Xbox E3 conference, because J-Stars was a PS4 exclusive.
Yeah.
Same with the Gundam fighting game, same with Gundam Breaker, which I'm going to pick up tomorrow. Like, all of those things that's the reason I got a PS4.
Right.
And so if you're looking at an Xbox One, or not Xbox One, the opposite, if you're looking at PS4 because you're like, I want to play the one game, don't do it. Not because I'm not saying because it's not a good game. It's because you're gonna be wasting your money at that point, because you're only going to want to buy the games on the console you prefer. Like, I love everything about the PlayStation controller, fighting game wise and everything.
Now, allow me to make a counterpoint.
Okay, go ahead.
Because this person basically said that specifically they were interested in Neo because of the kind of the time period and the way the combat looks, and et cetera, et cetera. And, then they're like, oh, but maybe Sekiro will be able to do that. And it's like, yes, That is true, but Ghosts of Tsushima, like if you're into that time period and that kind of combat, I feel like there's another thing now to take into consideration, which is a second kind of.
Was that an exclusive though?
Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Sucker Punch. So it's like
okay.
Same company as
Gotcha.
Infamous, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking to take that plunge, I feel like you probably want to go watch some of them trailers for Ghost of Tsushima, because then you're buying a PlayStation 4 and you've got Neo, you've got Sekiro, and you've got Ghost of Tsushima kind of locked in. Plus, as we said in the beginning part of the show, you got a whole bunch of $20 games that you can go back and play that were exclusive, like whether the Yakuza games or any. You say you wanted to play Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a very, very good game.
That's also a very good game.
But
hella good.
Bloodborne, like I assume that if you're interested in Souls-like games, that you might be interested in playing Bloodborne, the Ratchet and Clank. These are just some of the ones that are on the list, but like the PlayStation has a huge selection. This is the problem that
That's the reason I bring up the money thing, though, is
right.
Because it's like because you'd have to build up a collection again, compared to already having this collection that you want to keep attaching to.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reason I brought that up, kind of thing. But it all depends on him. That's why I explained that.
I think that, like, okay, I mean, in the beginning here, Danger Dave says that he prefers the controller and the user interface and the achievement system and all that stuff. The achievement system, I don't really know what the fuck that is all about,
That's
but whatever.
About the same as it is the trophy system.
Whatever. You like all that interface stuff better on the Xbox than you like it on the PlayStation. That's fine. The problem that I'm having right now is that, like, yes, if you're just into the big AAA games that come out, having an Xbox is fine because you're going to be able to play all those games. No problem. You want to play Far Cry 5? You can play Far Cry 5. You want to play whatever. The problem is that, like, Sony has spent like the last 4 years fucking kicking Microsoft's ass with exclusives. I mean, between like God of War and Bloodborne and Uncharted and the last of it, I mean, just blah, 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 blah. Game. And then you've got Death Stranding, you've got Neo, you've got probably Neo 2, which was announced at E3, you've got Ghost of Tsushima, you got Spider-Man that's coming out later this year. Like, they're just fucking whooping Microsoft's ass with AAA console exclusive games. Like, I could almost see.
Yeah, but that's the reason I also give the advice of not doing it, because if he hasn't gotten one by now from all that stuff,
right,
then the odds are he's never going to get around to those things.
Yeah, well, I guess the thing is that if you were considering buying a console to play one game, Neo, I guess what I'm saying is that you also have Neo 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and Sekiro that you can play on there. And also, if you have an original Xbox, like if you don't have an Xbox One X, you could always go with a PS4 Pro, which I don't know. At this point,
it's a good console, the PS4 Pro.
At this point, I like. There was a time when, okay, look, I realize not everybody's got $350 swinging around to just do shit with, but it's not an insurmountable amount of money to get together in a lot of ways. For a purchase like that, for a big thing that's going to last you for a long time, is that I'm almost just like, do it. Just do it. You'll, do it and do yourself a favor and get PlayStation Plus, because at this point you could just download the games every month on PlayStation Plus.
Like I said, it all comes down to how much money he has.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it's one of the reasons I haven't bought a Switch right away, because if I buy a Switch, then that's $300 that could have gone to something else at this point.
Sure.
And I won't be able to I won't be able to build up the library on it that I already have on my PS4 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just that is the argument I have, basically. Yeah. Like, if you have a lot of money or a decent amount of money, go for it. If you don't worry too much about it.
I say that, but I also say that, I'm going to stick with where I go. Also, it's worth remembering, did they finally stop the E3 sale? That, like, man, these motherfuckers had like $5 for Infamous Second Son or something like that.
Stuff,
like they had some hella deals where it's just like
South Park was like $20.
Yeah, like it was fucking hella deals.
Street Fighter 5, the arcade edition was like $24. It was crazy.
It was fucking nuts. It was goddamn nuts. I think they finally ended it probably. Yeah. So I feel like that's another thing, and I don't know how much Xbox puts stuff on sale. I know that when I go there, I feel like sometimes I see stuff, but also if you keep an eye out for sales, you'll find a lot of interesting stuff. But anyway, let's see what we got here.
Wait, so you got two answers, so go with whichever one you do.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of money or do you not? That's pretty much it.
Our answer is yes and no.
Basically.
Do whatever you feel like.
Do what you want. I'm not your boss.
You're an adult. I'm just a jackass on the internet.
It's like I went to a Father's Day and had a steak with the Capri Sun because I'm an adult.
There you go. Okay, Nima Hose writes in with asking for some relationship advice. Says, hello, Jeff and Michael. I know we try to keep it light around here, but I'd like to vent and get some relationship advice. For a year, I had a girl try to be my... okay, let me make sure I read all this. Here, I'm going to turn it down. For a year, I had a girl try to be my everything, but I never let it go to the next level because she had a kid, and if we got together, I was afraid of how everything in my life would change. If it worked, great. But if it didn't, I would have destroyed my life for nothing. When she finally gave up, I said I respect that. I just wanted her to be happy. We were cool mostly. Everything remained the same, just no sex. We hung out and talked every morning and night. But a month ago, I came over to her place for lunch and asked where her car was. And she said she didn't think I would notice. Apparently, some guy she's been talking to for 2 months had it. So after that, she stopped talking to me as much, and now she rarely responds to any of my messages and calls. When she backed off, I realized that I really loved her and wanted to be with her no matter how many changes that had to be made. But when I came to her, she got defensive because now I wanted her when she started talking to somebody else. So I apologized and fixed everything. She said were the reasons that I hurt her and showered her with gifts. All that has made it even worse. Now she treats me like a villain. I've given her an out saying if she wants to end everything we had going, it's cool, I'll move on, but she won't end it. So I'm lost. Should I give up or should I keep trying? Thanks for your awesome videos and a great distraction when my mind keeps beating me up. Your little patron, Nima Hose. Okay. Woo.
Oh my fucking God.
Yikes. Yikes, Aruski.
You should give up. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah, see.
Because the window passed, and then you saw somebody else going for it, and then you decided at that moment. And it's not wrong that you decided that.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that she moved on at that point, and at this point, she's made it clear that she's already moved on.
God, I can only imagine how frustrating this must be from that lady's perspective.
It's super. It has to be
trying to get some dude to notice me, senpai, and he's like, "Yeah, but I don't really want to." And then you're like,
"Life isn't like this. This isn't Scrubs. Life isn't like Scrubs. Like this isn't the episode where he tricks Elliot to getting back with him, and then he doesn't want her, kind of thing. And then at the end of the show, they get back together. No, that's not how life works.
Yep.
Like if it did, you would be fine. But honestly. The time passed. You fucked it. You fucked it up.
Okay. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say, Nima Hose. This is okay. One.
Neither of us are Dr. Nerdlove, by the way.
Yes, absolutely.
I would send this to him.
Go ask and send it to Dr. Nerdlove or whatever. Anyway. Okay. So here's what I can tell you. One. Just about every single relationship dating advice show that I've ever listened to or watched or listened to or whatever has the same advice. Don't do it. Don't do it. Move on, motherfucker. Like, you're trapped in the past. Move on. So at first blush, what you said, 100%. Yes. You kind of bungled it, and that's not to say. But the fact is that she doesn't want you out of her life, which is fine. It can also just be that she's a nice person, right? You got to remember that. It takes a lot for a person to be like, I fucking hate you, get out of my life, don't ever call me again. Like,
yeah.
I've done that twice in my life, and it's very difficult, and it doesn't even work very well. Like, a lot of times the person just ends up back in your life anyway because you've got friends or they show up at a thing and you're tired of hating them.
As long as there's someone in the circle, at least.
Right.
I've successfully cut ties with one person in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad of that.
Here's what I'm going to say, Nima Hose. You got to go on some dates. Like, whether you're going to get back together with this girl or not, you got to get some perspective from the situation, and there's no way to do that by being in the situation. You got to go. You got to go out there. You try it on Tinder, try it on OkCupid. Yes, they are garbage fires, and they are full of shit people, and you're gonna spend a lot of time messaging people who don't message you back. Please don't become one of those people on the internet. It's like, oh, well, you were fat and ugly anyway, you bitch.
You're gonna show up on Reddit.
Yeah, you don't want to be on Reddit. You don't want to be on Reddit. go on Tinder, swipe a bunch of times, message a bunch of ladies, try to be earnest and just be like, hey, let's go hang out. Try to take it a little bit easier and back away, but specifically back away from this situation and get a little bit of perspective on it. I'm not going to say that maybe you two won't end up together, but I'm going to say that as long as you're trying, then nothing is changing, right? You need to loosen everything up, right?
The problem I have with this question and the way he is going about it is one of the sentences that he says is that if it worked out great but it didn't, I would have destroyed my life. He says the word my life for nothing. Mm-hmm. The thing is, if that was your thought process, and if it's still your thought process, then you didn't need that relationship to begin with, because you weren't thinking about her and the fact that she has a kid.
Right.
You're not destroying your life. You're destroying the kid's life at that point. You're not that's the thing that I kind of have a problem with, is that you're not ready for that sort of thing. Like, because you didn't think about them, you thought about yourself right away. And you still do, based on that sentence. So that's the reason I think you should give up on it. It's not because I think you're a terrible person. It's not because I think, the relationship could be bad if it happened.
Sure.
It's that you're not ready for a family life.
Right.
I think more
there's
than anything.
There's a difference between dating somebody and dating somebody that has a child. Right?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with dating someone who has a kid, but you have to be prepared to want to be in somebody else's life, because at that point it's not just about you and her; it's about her and the kid.
Her, and a kid.
Like Brian, God bless Brian. Like he's now married with someone who had a kid before when they were dating.
Yep.
And he was prepared for that. He's wanted to be a
dad now, right?
Yeah, he's wanted to be a dad for a long, long time.
Yep.
And I'm so proud of him for doing something like that.
Yep.
And so that's the thing, is like I've seen it.
By the way,
I've seen it work.
It's disgusting following him on social media, because it's just like, I fucking love my kids, like,
He's so
all
happy.
the time. He's so happy that it makes me want to punch him. I want to punch him and be like, stop being so happy.
Stop being so goddamn
Be a little
happy.
bit less happy, motherfucker.
Stop loving your life, damn you. But that's the thing, is that he knew full well going into that relationship that this is what he needed to be a part of.
Yeah.
And based on that, literally that one sentence, I don't think you're ready for something like that.
Maybe it's also possible that this person, when they wrote this email, they meant something different. Like, it's possible that.
Well, that's the thing.
But
it's one of the reasons I take issue with it, is because how does that necessarily destroy their life more than anything? Is my only issue with that. Like what would have caused it to destroy your life if it ended, kind of thing.
Well,
like there's missing chapters in here,
right?
That I feel like would make that sentence make more sense.
Sure.
But if what I'm presented with right now and that sentence is there, then I'm just going to tell you to give up, because you're not ready for a family life thing, and that's what she wants more than anything. And the fact that she kept trying to get you to do that, and then you said no, and then now all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe. It's like, no, that's not how this works for her. I've seen a lot of single mothers deal with this sort of thing. My sister had to deal with this sort of thing at one point.
Yeah.
Like, she's married now, and now they're doing well, but that's the thing, is she went through a lot of guys before that point had happened.
Right.
Like, the thing is, you need to be... The relationship when it comes to a single parent isn't just you dating them. And that's what you need to understand more than anything.
Yeah. I personally think that perspective is the 90% of the people that I've known in my life that have problems with dating and relationships, it's because they're too close to the situation. And so you need to get away from the situation and get some perspective on it, right? Like,
or get perspective from someone who kind of knows the situation.
Well, for me,
from the outside,
personally,
like a coworker or something.
I think that too many times in our lives we get wrapped up in our own thought processes without any way to break out of it. Right? We don't have a sounding board. You're sending this, you send me this email, whatever. But a lot of times we will find a thing in our life, and because we're so fixated on it, we make it into something that it's not. Right?
Yeah.
Or go date. Go date.
I've had a lot of things like that happen to me. Like, there was a girl that I knew not too long ago who I put in my head on a pedestal.
Right.
And I think back to it, and I'm like, no, that wasn't the right call either way. Like, kind of thing. Like, I still kind of do that every now and then, but that's on me, kind of thing. And, like, my thought process is fucked is when it comes to relationships. But when, like you said, when you're on the outside of it and you think clearly and you're able to see all of the things that are going on, So, like, you sending us to that to us, you presented us with something, and I am giving you what my thought process on it is.
Sure.
But
I say that's the thing. Again, I'm just gonna keep saying over it. Go date. Go get away from the situation. Like, listen, if you date a bunch of people and you're just like, no matter how many beautiful women I meet that I click really well with, all I can think about is this one girl. Okay, well, then maybe that's a thing that you need to go back and reconsider. But the first thing that you need to do is not sit around just thinking about this all the time. Go do something to take your mind off of it. And specifically, go meet somebody else, because I can't tell you how many times, and I don't know how old you are, Neem, so I don't want to make any assumptions about that you're younger. Hopefully, or I don't really know. The lady has a kid. I don't know. This is whatever, but it's too easy to get all wrapped up in one thing and get fixated on it. Where if you go, listen, you may go date somebody else that you're really into, and then like, oh shit, no, I was just like, I was searching for affection and companionship, and this is a person that I knew that I thought was a good match for me. But it turns out that if I met somebody else who was a good match for me, I'm like, oh no, it was just I was lonely, right?
Yeah,
and now you're fine. Like, you go do that, or maybe you do a bunch of stuff, and like I said, it turns out that you really do have a very big connection to this person. But the only way to find out is not sitting around going around and around in your head about this. You need to go do something else.
Yeah, jumping on that point is just that, like, the reason that you really need to date more because of it is because you need to prove to yourself that you want this person, not because they started dating someone else.
Yes.
More than anything. So.
I agree 100%.
That was a long answer.
We got one more question, and we got a comment. This one comes in from VJ. VJ says, hello, purveyors of rage. VJ here, and I'm raging. I have many bones to pick with the movie/video game industry because of the ever-growing greed and incompetence. However, despite all the criticisms, things refuse to improve. Very often, these problems have obvious solutions. Some examples. Hollywood movie fight scenes are absolute garbage. Solution, pull the camera back and get some proper lighting. Games as a service. Solution, destroy EA or make a good game. Hollywood Godzilla movies are garbage. Solution, show some goddamn Godzilla and don't kill Bryan Cranston in the first 5 minutes. If the Rage Lord gave you 5 minutes to list all your grievances and the most obvious solutions, what would they be? Thanks for answering my question, and go. First off, can I just say, VJ, that like a lot of these things that you're talking about, I don't think they're as much of a problem as you
think.
As what you think they are. Like, I think that movie fight scenes used to be all Born Identity and garbage, but I feel like they've gotten
a lot better
recently.
Like,
yeah,
Winter Soldier proved that you can be pretty fucking badass in a fight scene.
Yeah,
and
John Wick was one of the best action movies I've ever seen in my entire life.
And a lot of the ones that you bring up, like Transformers and stuff, it's to hide the CGI stuff.
Yeah.
So, and even then, Avengers Infinity War proved you can do that too.
Right. Like, games as a service, yes, but like there's so many
games, though.
There's so many. Well, and that's just a few games. There are so many games, like Destiny and Anthem. Yes, Cyberpunk 2077. No, like there are plenty of games that don't. It's fucking God of War.
Yeah, God of War is a game as a service.
Is a game
Horizon
as a service.
is it?
Like, Detroit.
Yeah,
I'm just looking through I got my PlayStation turned on. Here's Detroit. Here's The Witcher. Here's Shadow Tactics. Here's Jurassic World Evolution.
I get what he means, though. It's just that, Street Fighter V is a great example of a bad game as a service thing going on right now.
Yeah,
and so I get that, but there's also, Dragon Ball FighterZ, which is also really, really good.
And Hollywood Godzilla movies are garbage.
That one I can't fight him on because he's not wrong.
But the problem with that statement is there's only been 2 Hollywood Godzilla movies and a shitload of other Godzilla movies that are not Hollywood. Like Shin Godzilla.
I love Shin Godzilla, though.
I can kind of see the same
I really
thing
like that movie.
About, like, show more Godzilla and less, like, a person in a boardroom, a person in a cabinet meeting, a person in a science lab.
I really like that movie, actually, a lot. But I can't blame person. The problem is, the thing is, I've watched a lot of Godzilla films where that's just kind of the norm of just watching people talk, and then Godzilla shows up and blows something up, and then they go back to talking. But I can't blame them for the 2014 Godzilla film.
Right.
Because I've soured on it quite a bit, as time has gone on. But even they know that, too, because I've heard that the newest one that's supposed to come out is apparently supposed to be more like an old Godzilla film, or more action kind of thing.
All right, well, so we've got general
Also, Colossal's really good, so I don't really know what you mean.
Okay. Colossal isn't a kaiju movie, in my opinion. Like,
it totally is.
It's a relationship movie.
Yeah, but it's a relationship movie that has kaiju in a very interesting way.
Sort of, but I
will fight you on this.
You can fight all you want. There's no winners or losers here, because, like, it's I don't know. It's not like the movie was based around. I don't have to explain myself. It's not a kaiju movie.
We're not having this conversation.
Pacific Rim is a kaiju movie, and Colossal is a relationship movie that happens to have kaijus in it. As far as just general complaining pantses go, let's see. I've been recently. I just have been real. There was some stuff at E3 this year that since you've given us uninterrupted time, I think I'll complain a little bit about some of the E3 stuff. I don't like the fact that Bethesda talked about Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6. I think it's too early, and you didn't have jack shit to show for it.
Well,
right?
the Starfield thing, I think, wasn't a bad idea, but the Elder Scrolls thing, I think they probably could have waited a year.
I honestly feel like there is... Like when John and I were talking about the Nintendo conference, I feel like Nintendo did the same thing where they were like Metroid Prime 4, and then this year it was like, okay, where the fuck is Metroid Prime 4? And John was like, well, they probably don't have enough of it done. And it's like, then don't fucking announce it that early, right?
At least
like
with Starfield, they had an actual trailer. With Elder Scrolls 6,
sort of.
Well, that's the thing is with Elder Scrolls 6, they're like, here's the title.
Yeah,
and there's a background that's probably from our other games. That was the entire thing.
Well, that's not entirely true because Todd Howard actually came out and said there's stuff in that Elder Scrolls 6 teaser that you can see that actually says stuff about the world. But anyway,
but the thing is, it's still pointing at a screen with a title, and that's it.
It's too early. It's too fucking early. Like there are games out there that like Rage 2 to me is about announcing at E3 and it's coming out later this year. We're good to go, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like when you announce a game, I'd rather if I had my druthers, you'd never hear about a game announcement until it was within the 1 year window of release, right? Because from announcement to putting it out, a year to me is enough time for me to stay excited. If you trickle out a trailer every couple of months, not like I feel like a lot of game companies will announce a game and then like what is it? There's something recently where when is Doom out?
Doom
Eternal, yeah.
I think it's next year.
Where like they have I don't think do they have a release date?
I think they just said next year. As far as I knew, that's what it was.
Because like right now, let's see, QuakeCon release date. So the thing about Doom Eternal is that I'm really into Doom Eternal, and I feel like they're there's no release date. Okay, that they're putting like ads before every YouTube video for Doom Eternal, and I'm like, fuck.
Really?
It doesn't have a release date yet, like, right? And whenever I go to hit a YouTube channel, I have to watch the E3 trailer for Doom Eternal. I'm like, it's too early to be like throwing this in my face all the time.
A lot of the times, the reason they do that, at least in my opinion, is the fact that there's so many games coming out that if you did something like that, it would be very hard to actually get people excited for a game correctly. I think a good example of that isn't a game; it's a movie, which is Solo.
Yeah,
like Solo, they started advertising stuff the same year it came out, essentially. I was reading comments where people didn't even realize it was coming out, even though it's been out for like a month.
Yeah, I feel like there's a sweet spot though, especially with video games, because a lot of times
I think a 2-year time frame is fine, but if it's a 3-year time frame, I don't think that's a good idea. That's the reason the Final Fantasy thing is so annoying to me.
I don't like it when they do that, and I think there's such a thing as too many trailers. I think that you start to see games. I think Ubisoft is kind of bad at this about putting out just like trailer after trailer after trailer. Like when Far Cry 5 was coming out, and it was like, here's a trailer about Faith. Here's a trailer about John Seed. Here's a trailer about the dog. Here's a trailer for and I'm just like,
there's a lot of them.
Fucking put the game out already. Like you sold me. Like you're only at a certain point. It's like a bell curve where you're starting to make me less interested in this game because you're just like, here's more, and I'm like, no. I want it.
Yeah.
I want to buy it. If you put it out, I'll buy it. And you've just got to a point where you're not even. It's like you're not getting me hyped. You're teasing the fact that I don't have your game yet. You're like, look at this, and I'm like, I know already. Put it out. Just give it to me, and I'll fucking play it. You yahoos.
And then we know how that turned out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
It's not a bad game, just a lot of people hated it
for
some reason.
I think the ending leaves a lot to be desired, and there's a lot of the gameplay that I feel like is not quite as good as some.
Actually,
of the
you know what?
previous games.
That's my complaint. I'm sick of the silent protagonist. I'm so fucking sick of him.
Yep.
It's not because if you're gonna do that, don't have a long conversation with me.
Yep.
Where I can't respond to you.
Yep.
Because that's the problem I had with Far Cry 5, where they're like, "You're the bad guy here," and I'm like, I could literally list like 5 things you did in the past 10 minutes that's more fucked up than anything I've done.
Oh man, that was such a.
But I'm the bad guy
at the end of Far Cry 5, where the game starts to fucking waggle its finger in your face, like, "See, you were the real monster."
You were the monster,
and it's like, no, I wasn't. Video game, like you can't convince me that the religious cult that is abducting and drugging people until they're literal,
them
like until they're literal zombies, are the good guys, and then you blew up all the drug towers, you monster. I'm like,
you're a terrible person for saving that dog. What?
You kidnapped me 8 times and put me in your missile silos, and then maybe like murder my way out of them. What was I gonna do? Not murder my way out of them?
It really, yeah.
I've already shown you that I'm committed to murdering everybody that's part of your church. So, like, if you put me in a place that's full of your church people, I have proven Far Cry 5. I have proven that I am willing to point an attack bear at you and strafe your church with a helicopter full of missiles. All right. Please stop trying to talk your way into like, don't you feel bad? I'm like,
no.
I strafed your church with missiles. I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm the world's worst cop. I have a bear. I have a bear that does
a bear with diabetes that I sick on you.
A diabetic bear.
Diabetic bear. A crew that just loves murdering.
Yep.
It's like, I'm a terrible person.
Yeah.
But you're way worse than I am. But I'm the best. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sick of the silent protagonist. Stop giving me the silent protagonist. And if you do, at least make it make some kind of sense.
Yeah. Anyway, we got one more, and then we're going to get out of here. This is just a statement. Ron writes in and says, "Dear Jeff and Mike, I don't have a question this week. I just wanted to let you know that you ruined my life. I watched you play Moonlighter on the dojo, and that's all I've been doing since. If the PS4 purchase had included a Vita version of the game, then my life would truly be over, as this game is one of the most addicting ones I've ever played. Thanks." From Ron. You're welcome, Ron.
Is that the one where you punch the lady into the moon, or am I thinking of something else?
No. Which game are you thinking about?
I'm just thinking
Did you just think about the show The Honeymooners?
I think so.
That always reminds me of, I love that episode of Futurama where they have the little small world diorama, and he's like, one man had a dream, and he's like, one of these days, bang, zoom, straight. And Fry is like, he wasn't an astronaut. He was just using space travel as a metaphor for abusing his wife. No, it's Racketeer, basically.
Okay.
We played it a few days back, where it's like you go into a dungeon, it's kind of a top-down Zelda procedurally generated thing, and then you take all the stuff out of the dungeon.
Oh, that thing.
Sell it into the store, right? And then you do upgrades and stuff as well. Yeah, it's a very cool game. Very cool game. Check out Wizard of Legend too. I can't recommend Wizard of Legend enough. It's such a good game. Anyway, let's wrap it up here. Michael, tell the people they can find you on the internet.
You can find me on oneofus.net. We just recently did a review for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Ooh.
So you can hear Matt scream for 20 minutes.
Sure.
As well as everyone else.
I don't need a podcast to hear Matt scream for 20 minutes.
That's true. About dinosaurs.
About dinosaurs. That's
just like hanging out with Matt. That will happen.
That's eventually. Like 70% of my interactions with Matt is hearing him yell about dinosaurs.
Or Godzilla. It's one or the other. Or both.
True. Or both, yeah. Mail at ragesite.com is the email address. Get your questions in. We also have a submission form, I guess, on the website, the new website. Check out the new website. Let me know what you think about the new website. Send in your questions, and we'll read them on the air. Yeah, that's it. And we're out of here. I don't have a... I need it always just kind of weevils out into like
straight to the moon.
Bang, pow. All right, y'all, eat your vitamins. We'll see you next time.
Winners don't do drugs or whatever.
Yeah.